This story began a long time ago. Dilshod, a leading neurosurgeon at the Dallas hospital. Before that, he was a final-year student at a medical school. Very shy of his name, not modern and rather strange. For my ancestor, when he said his name, people would immediately ask, "Where are you from?" His mom, Rev Shauna, and dad, Harry. They named him Dilshod, not ours, not yours. The mixture of Asian and American blood produced a boy whose nationality could not be determined either by kindergarten teachers or school teachers. According to documents, he was American, but he did not fit the standards of appearance. Dark-skinned, with stiff black hair, black nose, and blue eyes. This is the color designers call royal blue. Appearance, of course, not exotic, but attracting attention, especially of his peers. That in school, that in the institute, all the student years of the theme flowed from one novel to another, often not remembering what was the name of yesterday's girlfriend. Tales of love from his friends listened to, but did not believe looking at his parents. I wanted the same warm, cozy family. I saw the love there. I knew he was flawed in some way, but it doesn't work to love when he meets a girl with whom he can live his life. Pleasant, calm in trust and respect. He'll propose, he'll even say he loves her. That's what you're supposed to do. Perhaps there is love in the world, but he knows nothing about it. If we can't have it, we'll live without it. Relations, the 2 weeks before the diploma defense were declared library days. No lectures were allowed. It was assumed that all students would spend days and nights finalizing their papers in order to defend themselves with dignity. It was as if the professors had never been students themselves. 2 weeks. At the beginning of June, we go to the sea. A week of swimming, a week to finish the diploma, and we've never been to the sea. At the station, there were old ladies with signs that said, "Rent a place to live." Having seen 4 obviously moneyless students, the grandmothers somehow quickly hid the signs and spread out. One, either the most desperate or without silver, approached the guys. "Students. Honestly, the conditions aren't great. The cottage in the garden isn't even a cottage. A room for 4, a bed, a veranda. There's no water in the house, only a tap on the veranda. Toilet and shower are in the garden. The kitchen is in my house. You have to come and cook. To the sea 10 minutes walk, but steeply downhill. But not on the mountain to roll down. There are steps. Those who want comfort won't come to my place. But maybe it's good for you. Of course, it's okay. We don't need jacuzzi tubs, and we're not likely to cook. Will we have neighbors? No. I live on the mountain. My house is on the street and yours is downstairs in the garden. I have guests in my house, but they don't come down to the garden. Nay, guys, this is perfect. I hope no one misses a warm toilet. I think we're only going to be there for the night. Yes, the road was very uphill, but grandmother habitually stepped from step to step, and the young and zealous dragged behind her. Don't you dare ask for mercy. It's embarrassing. But the cottage in the garden exceeded all expectations. Yes, just a room with beds. But the veranda, a delight. Trees, bushes, flowers. Everything blooms and smells. We didn't ask what they were called. Who cares about that? They're figs and pears, but they are not ripe. We can't eat them. We threw ourselves into the sea at once, without thinking. What bliss. How much water? It's cold. Come on. 19 degrees is warm for me. The locals didn't go in the water. They came to breathe, walked along the shore. Sometimes they'd go in the water for a minute and come right back out. It's cold. In the evening, we went to a cafe. Well, as a cafe, so diners. But our students needed fun and cheap. Cheap was relatively cheap, but they had real fun. As expected, they returned to the mountain house, only to sleep. After a couple of days, Dilshod decided that they should see some sights. His friends did not support him. The beach, cafes, and girls were more interesting. After wandering around the city, Dilshod decided to go to Alfie Rock. First of all, it was not far. Secondly, it was cheap. The rock is named so because the local artist Alfie often depicted it on his canvases. Dilshod knew nothing about the artist Alfie and had never seen his paintings. Another thing attracted him. The beach near the rock was seen by all people. This is the famous white rock from the Diamond Hand, where Thomas had an unprecedented nibble. The excursion was a sea excursion. On a small boat loaded 10 tourists and went on an hour-and-a-half journey. The boat was gliding along the waves quite sharply. The water overboard was dark blue and shiny from the glare of the sun. The sun, sea, rocky shore, and loud, cheerful music quickly raised the mood. Some exuberant, ungrounded joy, a feeling of boundless freedom and a premonition of happiness. At the helm stood a short, stout, tanned sea wolf. He looked as if he were steering not a small boat, but at least a sea liner. It was impossible to imagine him driving tourists back and forth all day long. No, he does everything just for them. And he smiles radiantly only for half an hour later, when the first impression had faded a little. Dilshod began to look at his fellow travelers. He didn't want to sit alone for the whole trip. He wanted to socialize. Two enthusiastic elderly ladies who did not let go of their cameras. The company on the stern, who started drinking beer on the beach and did not plan to stop. Some business traveler who tightly took a pleasant middle-aged lady. A young mother with 2 children, catching them all over the boat. In the far corner sat a girl, not taking her eyes off the rocks floating by. You could see how much she was enjoying the scenery overboard. Dilshod watched for a while, realized she was alone, and went aboard. Hello. The girl looked up and Dilshod was stunned. Dilshod had never believed that you could look into her eyes and forget who you were and where you were. He couldn't see himself from the outside, but he suspected that he had a dorky look, so he approached and stood silently. Are you on a field trip too? God, what an idiot. He thought he was irresistible, macho, cold-blooded, and dishonorable, but he can't say 2 words. I'm sorry, I got excited. My name is Dilshod. Eva, don't worry, sit down. I'm bored alone too. Dilshod and Eva switched to you as they sailed to Wolfie Rock. They were curious. They were excited by the unexpected acquaintance. It became clear at once that the journey to the rock and back would not be limited to communication. Eva came to the sea with her girlfriend, who on the first day had an affair with a local and left with him yesterday. Eva decided that since her friend had left her, she wouldn't stay at home either. It's no fun lying on the beach, especially since you can't really swim, so she went on an excursion. The rock was majestic and white, but the beach was small. It looked bigger in the movies. Straight down to the shore they docked. Yeah, the rocks looked similar. Although there are rocks like that all along the coast, the captain explained that if they'd arrived a couple weeks later, he would have taken them to the open sea. There were dolphins swimming there. It was out of season. On the way back, the captain decided to add a little more drive. He directed the boat to the waves so that the passengers got wet from the fountains of splashes. They came ashore wet but satisfied. We didn't want to part. We walked along the embankment, ate ice cream. Dilshod didn't understand why his heart clenched when he looked at Eva. It had never been like this before. Is this love? That's how it is. We agreed to meet tomorrow here on the quay for chupa chups. That's how the locals call the port control building, a control room looking like a tall tower with a big ball on top. Dilshod's friends hardly saw him. Sometimes he would run in to change his clothes and get some sleep. The rest of the time he spent with Eva. He didn't answer their questions, didn't pay attention to their teasing, just dropped out of their lives when the vacation came to an end. And it was time to leave. Dilshod seriously considered the possibility of staying another week. Dilshod, are you coming or not? There's a train to the airport tonight. I don't know yet. I'll meet you at the station, to leave or to stay. When and where to meet after vacation. I was flying to a date, dreaming, waiting, and Eva didn't show up for the chupa chups. He waited for her for half a day, hoping she'd show up. Why didn't he take her phone number or address? He thought he'd have time. He didn't even know her last name. He ran to the house where Eva and her friend rented a room. The landlady was just finishing cleaning the room. Do you remember me? No, sure. The girls had just left. What do you mean? When did they leave? They left this morning. Do you know where they went? Have you seen their passports? I didn't ask. Then they called and asked if there was room. It's okay to come. It's not the season yet, there's room. So they came. But I think Ayla left a few days later. Eva stayed. They paid as soon as they got here. So why do I need their passports? And this morning, Ayla came running in, kind of out of it. Something must have happened. They left their stuff and went to the train station. It's a dead end. Dilshod didn't even know where she was from. She said she lived in a small town not far away. It would take 5 hours to get there by train. Goes to university, I think. Probably Phoenix. I'm not sure, but I remembered. She's a philologist, English, German, but specializes in German. But how does that help in the search? At the airport, he thought all the way back that he should have stayed, should have tried to find Eva. Despair set in. Dilshod clearly realized that fate had given him a chance to be happy, and he had missed it. When he returned home, Dilshod could not find a place for himself and scolded himself with the last words. How could he not even recognize her surname? Now he knew what love was, but he did not understand how to live without his beloved. He lived somehow. Institute, residency, first scientific articles, PhD defense and work, a few fleeting, sluggish relationships. That's his personal life. He became tougher, more callous, more easily made acquaintances and just as easily ended them. He didn't get attached to anyone, didn't let anyone get close to him. He built a career, became the best neurosurgeon in the city and one of the best in the country. Colleagues considered him a top-class professional, but not too pleasant to communicate with a person. His parents were worried their son would never start a family. It's time. And they wanted grandchildren, they said. They tried to help by inviting home very worthy girls. But Dilshod didn't seem to notice them. He was extremely polite to them, accompanied them to the door of the house, and then came back and looked at them with sad eyes. None of them stayed in his life. Harry Dilshod's father believed that his son had not yet met his love, while his mother Ravshana felt that he had met and lost it. That is why he suffers. At first, Dilshod often fantasized about a chance meeting with Ava. There are such mockeries of fate. He always looked at the faces of passing women, especially at airports and train stations. Years passed, and Ava never met. Gradually, he weaned himself from this inappropriate youthful habit of looking for Ava in the crowd. 5 years had passed, enough of dreaming, but I couldn't stop dreaming about her. I forbade dreaming, stopped looking for Ava, and even made an attempt to live like everyone else. He got married. Everything seemed to have been thought out and calculated. They had common professional interests. She was a beautiful and intelligent woman. It seemed to Dilshod that mutual respect was enough for living together, if not in love, then harmony. He proclaimed that the future wife was reasonable. She realized that she did not breathe love, but agreed. Apparently, she had her reasons. Very soon, Dilshod realized that his theory of a happy marriage built on trust and respect did not work. His beautiful wife did not please him. He didn't want to go home and pretend that everything was fine, pulled the need to go together to visit to the theater. When he imagined that he would live like that all his life, he felt sick. A year later, Dilshod realized that there was no room for joy in his life. He did not know how to change it. He had made such a life for himself, and now he had no idea how to get out of it. Dilshod turned out to be a really smart woman, helped him unexpectedly. She saw everything, understood, waiting for family life to reach the stage of I cannot see you. I will not. Once on a weekend, when Dilshod was worried that he didn't have to go to work and would have to spend the whole day together, she suddenly said, Dilshod, let's get divorced and that's it. Stop pretending to be a family. It's not working. Amelia, what are you saying? Why pretend? We're doing well. That's right, it's not bad. You know how you call Ava a lot in your dreams? At least you don't call me that. You must love her. It's a shame you don't love me, but it can't be helped. I've loved and lost too. I know what it's like. Are you saying it's fate to lose love? It's not fate. It's the law of meanness. I fell in love for the first time when I was 17, naturally, for life. There's no other way at that age. I saw him, my admiral, and he asked me out on a date. Can you imagine? I wake up in the morning, I have to go on a date in the evening, and I have a zit on my nose. I can't understand you. It's the end of the world. Life is falling apart, Amelia laughed. Well, naturally, all day long the friend did not know how to comfort. I didn't go on a date, but my faithful friend went and stole my boyfriend. That's how tragic my first love was. It's funny now, but back then, it was no laughing matter. And then there was a real big love that I lost, just like you. I know how much it hurts. You want to tell me? No, I don't want to dredge up the past. Why would you? You deal with yours. We're the same, you and me. We live without joy. We can't do that. We can't survive together. That perception seems wrong. According to conventional norms, we should now have a long and thoughtful discussion about why our life together did not work out, who is to blame and what steps to take next. It would be necessary to forgive each other for all the past, for what was and what was not, and then be sure to give themselves another chance for happiness. No, to hell with the rules, said Dilshod. Let's just go our separate ways and this will be our chance. That's how their married life ended, but without drama and litigation. Dilshod decided for himself that he would not marry again. It turned out that trust and respect were not all that was needed for happiness. Dilshod plunged headlong into work, taking on the most complicated operations. The reputation of the clinic had long been linked to his name. They did not say neurosurgery clinic, they said Dilshod's clinic. Here he felt himself in his place. His authority was undeniable. Dilshod, the chief doctor is calling you. The nurses froze when they saw Dilshod. Impossible good. It was a pity that a man as talented as Dilshod did not notice the people around him, no matter how hard they tried. Then, "Thank you, girls," Dilshod replied. When he entered the office of the chief physician, he jumped up from behind his desk and hugged Dilshod. "Dilshod, your work has made a sensation." "No. What work?" Dilshod was surprised. "We sent your article to the Forum of Neurosurgeons. You were invited to the conference. We have plenty of good surgeons." "Why me?" "You're modest. You're the best," assured the head doctor. The conference was to be held in 2 days. At first, Dilshod hesitated. Indeed, there were many good surgeons in the clinic. But then he thought, why not? If he is invited, it means that he really means something in his profession. It's nice, and in another city want to. On vacation he has not been for a long time. The sea, the sun, the height of summer. When else will there be an opportunity to have a vacation at the sea? With such a job, even in December vacation is not seen, and so it's decided. He'll fly without insisting on it. His conscience is clear. 2 days before departure, Dilshod was spinning like a squirrel in a wheel, trying to settle all affairs. He forgot about sleep. He had to hurry to the plane. 8 days. Besides, it was going to take 5.5 hours to fly across the country. Did you sleep well? After getting on the plane, Dilshod immediately asked for a blanket, relaxed, warned the stewardesses that he would not drink or eat, and asked not to wake him up. He fell asleep immediately, without waiting for takeoff. He dreamt of Ava. He dreamt of her often, tender, sweet, calling him somewhere. But, as always in a dream, you run but you don't move. And tonight she wasn't just calling, she was in trouble. And he couldn't reach her, couldn't help her. To his sleep, he heard, "Doctor, doctor." He didn't know if he was dreaming or real, but he couldn't wake up. Her neighbor pushed him in the shoulder. Dilshod opened his eyes. "Are you a doctor by any chance?" "No." "What happened?" "Somebody's sick, looking for a doctor, but there are no doctors on the plane." "I woke you up." "What if you woke me up right?" "No, I'm a doctor." The stewardesses were running around the cabin, waking passengers drowned in sleep, apologizing and, "No, are you not a doctor?" Or Dilshod, with a heavy head and poor post-sleep coordination, stepped forward. "I am a doctor," he told the flight attendant. She looked at him doubtfully, but there was no other option. "What kind of doctor? Who do you need?" "If I knew. The baby's not well. Can you help?" "It's good that it's not a dog, because I'm not a veterinarian, although I'm not a pediatrician, but at least it's a person." "Show me where." There was a seat at the end of the salon, a chair. There lay a girl of about 6 years old, breathing heavily. Dilshod didn't understand at first sight what was wrong with her. And he couldn't understand he wasn't a pediatrician, not even a therapist. It's not his specialty. But the girl has to be saved, and nothing on hand. "Do you have a tonometer?" "Do you?" "Bring everything and every medication on board." "Get everybody out of here," he said to the stewardesses. The stewardesses brought everything they had and put out all the curious people. Dilshod quickly inspected the first aid kit. The medication kit was pretty decent for all occasions. Dilshod listened, gazed, interrupted his fatigue to keep the girl from losing consciousness. When she started to lose it, he would bring her back to consciousness. Her heart was beating erratically, but he was doing his best, giving oxygen, giving injections. And then, by 2 a.m., it was as if he'd pulled her from the other side of the world. The girl began to breathe smoothly and fell asleep. Dilshod sat beside her, listening to her pulse, feeling a terrible fatigue coming over him. It seemed that it would have been easier to perform the operation, but the girl was sleeping, breathing calmly, and Dilshod's world swam before his eyes from fatigue. Tears gathered in his eyes. It seemed to him that now he had done the most important thing in his life. This saved girl had become the most precious thing for him. "You look after her," he said to the stewardesses. "If anything, call me and contact the airport. Tell them to prepare an ambulance." So Judd reached his seat, sat down, and passed out. And again, he dreamt of Ava. She beckons, calls, and for some reason says, "Doctor, thank you." She had never said that in 7 years. Dilshod woke up in surprise. He couldn't come to his senses. Was it a dream or was it real? Ava was standing by his chair. He reached out to hug her, but thought, how can one hug a mirage? "No, I have to wake up first," he thought. This was some kind of wrong dream. And Ava wasn't the same as she always dreamed. rubbing his eyes. No, she wasn't disappearing. It was a strange state. It can't be. But he Sava, as if sensing his confusion, stroked Dilshod's cheek and said, Dilshoda, while you were saving my daughter, they wouldn't let me in. They said the doctor had forbidden it. Then, when you were walking to your place, I thought I was hallucinating on nervous grounds. They told me the doctor saved my little girl. If there hadn't been a doctor on board, it could have ended badly. I went to thank the doctor, and I ran into you. I'm standing there thinking, I'm not crazy, I'm not hallucinating. Is it really you? How can it be? Ava, real, alive. And here in front of him, Ava, are you here? Are you real? And from where? That's a strange question, she smiled. I'm on vacation like everyone else on this plane with my daughter. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have made it. That girl is your daughter? Yes. And now I owe you for life. You saved my daughter. Wait, is that really you? Where's the girl's father? That's too abrupt a turnaround, Dilshod. I'm very grateful to you, but this is none of your business. You tell me something serious has been said. Something with a heart. Does she have heart attacks at her age? Unfortunately, yes. But I won't tell you the cause. I'm a surgeon. I'm not an expert in pediatric diseases. Once you land, a pediatric cardiologist will tell you for sure. I'm going to see my daughter, then we'll talk. Lubba left and Dilshod couldn't believe it was her. He was scared. What if she disappeared again? No. Now he would do everything possible to prevent that from happening. It didn't matter if she was married or not, how many husbands and children there were. He won't let her go again. He just can't. He's lived too long without her, he can't go on. If happiness can suddenly appear, it did so in the most unexpected way. Now it's okay to live. Hey doctor, the neighbor took Dilshod's hand. Are you not feeling well? I haven't felt this good in 7 years. The plane landed, rolling down the runway. The ambulance tried to keep up. Dilshod realized that now the ramp would be served, Ava and her daughter would get into the car and drive away. Of course, it would not be a problem to find a hospital in the city where the girl would be taken. But he couldn't risk it. Maybe Ava would take her daughter and go home, and he, like the last idiot, didn't even have her phone number again. He frantically tugged at his belt, which wouldn't unbuckle. Take it easy, get a grip. He unbuckled it, jumped out of his seat, rushed to the back of the cabin. The flight attendants ran after him. Sit back in your seat, please. You can't get up now. They grabbed Dilshod's arms, trying to get him back in his seat. I need to see the girl. She could be sick. I could be sick. Girls, you are the hand of fate now. My life depends on you. The flight attendants didn't understand what fate had to do with it, but it was said so convincingly, and the doctor looked so excited that they decided not to argue. They took him to the back of the cabin, but they didn't leave. What's your Tandy? Everyone wonders. What was the life story of these people? Ava, I realize you're busy right now, but don't you dare disappear again. I'm about to be intercepted. I can't go with you. Promise me you'll meet me. No, I won't. I swear. We absolutely have to meet. I swear we'll meet. Right down the airplane stopped. Tanya and her daughter were let forward. Dilshod watched her walk away, panic overwhelming him. Leaving again. Everything was falling apart again. Holy shit, but it can't be the same 2 times in a row. Dilshod rushed to the exit, but it was unreal to walk through the crowd of passengers who had been sitting on the plane for more than 5 hours. Whether you were a doctor, a legendary storyteller, or the savior of mankind, even Bruce Willis couldn't save the planet if he had to get off the plane through a crowd of seated passengers. When Dilshod finally stepped onto the ramp, the ambulance was already flashing its lights at the runway exit. Okay, do you have a phone? On a kid with a Dilshod sign, bouncing impatiently at the exit of the arrival area, picked him up and whisked him off to the hotel. Dilshod warned him that he had to be at Sirius in an hour and the road took half an hour. If there were no traffic jams, so there was no time to spare. If he had to take a shower, he'd hurry up and get going. A very energetic young man. True, Dilshod did not come to rest. But the weather was not favorable for work. The sun was shining, flowers were smelling, the sea was noisy, palm trees were peeping brazenly into the windows. How does anyone manage to work in this city? A mystery. Don't relax. You flew to the conference. You have to listen to all the reports, participate in the discussions, pretend that you are all terribly interesting. And I want to go to the sea. And to it. No, not even that. I want to go to Ava. And the sea here is a nice bonus. So thinking about Ava and the sea, the first day of the conference passed. Although Dilshod was absorbed in his personal worries, he could not help noticing the high level of reports at the conference. He even liked some interesting developments of his colleagues. When he returned to the hotel in the evening, he immediately started calling Ava, but she did not answer. How can it be that again? He thought, gripped by a mixture of feelings. Despair mingled with hunger. Going down to the restaurant, like a lone wolf, he occupied the far corner of the hall. He didn't want to be in the company of his colleagues or the attractive girls who had been watching him with interest since his arrival. Dilshod, do you mind if I sit down? Ava stood in front of the table. Ava, how did you find me? Newton's binomial. Finding out we're a participant in a neurosurgeon's conference organized by our agency lives is not difficult at all. And that you're a neurosurgeon, I've known for a long time, opening in any medical forum. Here you are, first a rising star and then an entire luminary. So, Dr. Dilshod, I know a lot about you, and your wife is very beautiful and very hopeful too. Ex-wife, but hopeful nonetheless. She's smart and talented. She was unlucky with me, appreciated but not loved, because I couldn't love anyone but you. It's a good thing she was smart enough to let go. You know, after all these years, when a man starts with declarations of love, it's like trying to start a fleeting business trip. Like I loved you. I remember everything. You do too. Let's not waste any time. You're kind of attractive, and I'm pretty damn attractive. I'm going about my business. You and I have had a resort romance before, ended long ago and predictably, and you never talked about love. Why now? I did talk. I may have thought it was all I ever talked about. Didn't you? My wife left me when she realized I loved only you. I talked to you at night. Ava, why did you disappear 7 years ago? I don't think this is the place for intimate conversations. Are you at the conference tomorrow? No, let's go out tonight and talk. Mia's in the hospital. They say she needs to be monitored. So there's no rush to get home. No. So you're not here on vacation? No, I live in Sochi. My mom is a Decemberist. She got married and flew off to marry the man she loved. Maya and I flew to visit her. It's late. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll walk you out. But Ava only shook her head, and so convincingly that Timur did not dare to disobey. Well, until tomorrow, so until tomorrow. The whole next day, Dilshod actively participated in seminars and discussions, tried to occupy himself with work to think less about Ava, but constantly looked at his watch and wonders. What? Time does not move? And the day was endless. It seemed as if evening would never come. The sun did not want to leave this southern soul, told Ava several times. If she didn't answer the phone for a long time, he got worried. He tried to think of what he would say when he met her. He was even more worried when he thought of what she would say. He'd already spoken their entire conversation for both himself and her. God, what an idiot. Like a schoolboy before a first date. A smart, grown-up, serious man, and he can't pull himself together. He can't because he's been waiting years for this meeting. It seemed that the main thing was to find Ava, and then everything would go by itself and everything would be like before. I never seriously thought that she might not want to go back to the past. A husband, a daughter. It never occurred to him that Ava might be happy without him. It seemed that she would meet him and run to the ends of the earth for her beloved. Maybe she would. Only it's not certain that the one you love is you. If you look at the passions raging in Dilshod's soul from the outside, it would seem that there is nothing to suffer about. What happened, youthful love, which remains a bright memory for some people for the whole life. Seems like if we'd stayed together then, life would have been a celebration. Probably not. Just like that, he suffered, disappointed, doubted. How many stories are there like that? But everyone is sure that it happened only to him, and no one on earth suffered like him. If Dilshod had been told a darkness of similar stories that had happened before him after, he would still not have believed it. But Dilshod could not look at himself with a cold eye, and he got himself so worked up that he approached the venue, tangled in his fears, with his heart racing. Ava stood at the parapet and looked out at the sea. She was amazingly beautiful, even better than in her youth. Dilshod tried to figure out how old she was. If it was about 22 then, it was about 30 now. How had she lived these years? Surely married or had been. She would ask now, but was afraid to hear that she was married and happy. Well, what do you hope for, Dilshod, top-notch surgeon, man of dreams? Do you hope that all the years you've been waiting for you is suffering? It doesn't look like it. She looks gorgeous and has a child. He pondered to himself. Timur caught himself thinking that he was jealous. He had no right to be. He didn't live as a monk himself, but he's jealous. Ava, hello. Dilshod kissed Ava while he assessed how she would take it. Will she push him away? Will she resent him? No. But she looked strangely as if with a sneer. It's time to ask questions. Are you scared? My heart's about to jump. Majension. Are you going to tell me where you disappeared to? Yeah, it was kind of a mess. I came with my friend Ayla. She met some macho guy, ran out a couple times and took off with him. Love, you see, was coming. I tried to talk her out of it. I knew he was a creep, but her eyes were foggy. She can't hear anything. She took off. It turned out her unearthly love, deeply and firmly married. And his wife, taught by life experience, has long learned to quickly and accurately calculate her husband and eliminate rivals. They arrived, settled at a dasha at some friends. And when the beloved went away for a while, came imminent retribution. The wife stepped in. Verbal battles. The matter did not end with stools. Timur listened attentively, not taking his eyes off Ava, trying to understand what she was really feeling. So that's how it was, he said quietly. Yes, it was not very beautiful, but it was worth it. In fact, I realized a lot of things during those years. How so? Dilshod tried to intercept the thread of conversation. Why did you say anything to me at that moment? We could have. Ava looked at Dilshod carefully and said with a smile. Time doesn't always heal, but it helps to understand. Maybe then I was not ready for such a relationship, for such a life to be with you. And now, she used a stool. Anyway, Ayla barely got away. When I ran away, my wife shouted after her that she couldn't hide in tulips. I know the address and I'll find her there, she was screaming. We quickly packed our things and ran away for good. No. Why did you leave with her? I shouldn't have let her go alone, not in her condition. Then, fear is great. She's so hysterical that I got scared too. And where did you go? We went home. They won't find us in this dump. Yeah, it's a strange story. They walked along the embankment. Dilshod wanted to hug Ava, to hold her and not let her go. The sea was murmuring, palm trees were glistening, the impossibly huge moon was shining, and Timur decided to ask the main question. Sons, how did you live all these years? No. How did you live? In different ways. I defended my diploma, graduated from the institute, and then realized that I was pregnant. I went back to my hometown to prepare for Mia's birth. She gave up her career and her personal life and lived to remember. But Ava Dilshod wasn't going to tell Ava Dilshod. Anything else is okay, but this isn't. How she lived was fine. True, I had to return to my hometown. My mom was ill. I had to live in the town where Ava lived. A couple in their 50s came with 2 sons. The older one was about 25 years old. The younger one was still in school. They bought several hectares of land for individual construction. Real estate in the region was rising in price at a furious pace, and they decided to build a small cottage village on the outskirts. Of course, not the coast, but the sea is not so far away. If you build inexpensive houses with a minimum of amenities, there will be buyers. We didn't fail. The first 3 houses were not sold for a long time, and then everything went like clockwork. True, the village turned out not quite with a young population. The town was small, a few chain stores, 2 schools, and a house of culture. There was a place where almost the whole town gathered on holidays. A small, marvelously beautiful lake and 2 parks. Here moms with children and elderly people walked, although the parks could not be broken up. Library Street, every park, every plot was flowered. Young people didn't come here, there was no work. Beautiful, but boring. A sanatorium at the mineral spring, and a brewery. That's all the city's enterprises. With workplaces, it is absolutely bad. But the elderly people were happy to move to warm lands. They have worked enough. They want to bask in the sun in their old age, and here it is so quiet and peaceful. Inexpensive houses on the outskirts of the city near the forest were affordable and to their liking. When Ava returned to the town, her teacher mom shouted, "Fattening up. I told you so." And all the other things that are usually said in the deep countryside to unmarried pregnant daughters. She had the practical reasoning to get a job so she could go on maternity leave later. The headmaster of the local school rejoiced and glowed, as if the entire staff was staffed, and they had only gotten a foreign language teacher for a few months. One day, Jack came to pick up his brother at school and saw Ava. From that day on, his brother never walked to and from school. Jack did not suffer from dementia and saw perfectly well that Ava was expecting a child. But he fell in love in such a way that he didn't care what Ava's past was or whose child it was. Ava thought it was all wrong, made no promises. Jack was a nice young man, but nothing, and then her mom threw in a little more fuel on the fire. Nay, think about it. The baby needs a father. Nay, father, not a stranger who's in love now and then decides he's wrong. No. So where is he, the father? You haven't even told me who he is. Ava, I'm not telling you to marry without love. Only your love is nowhere to be found, and you'll never fall in love with anyone else. I know, we're all like that. Mom, why are you so sad? You've lived alone, haven't you? Did you marry the first guy you met? You've lived, and now you wonder if you should have gotten married. Better late regret. Don't scare me. I won't run away tomorrow, but I'll think about it. Maybe you shouldn't take your own pains. I'll share mine. You're a woman with a surprise, so be careful. I'm a slightly pregnant girl. I don't want anything to happen. Hey, tell me what you haven't told me. I'll tell you when I have something to tell you. I want you to look at Jack. He's a good guy, a businessman. It's his parents' business, but he's smart, he'll make it. While Ava and her mom were deciding who to marry, Jack had already made up his mind. And his decision, to put it mildly, shocked his parents. Handsome, rich, promising. His whole life ahead of him. And getting involved with some girl who's pregnant by who knows. Are you crazy? Of all the girls you've got around you, you've chosen the most unsuitable. What's wrong with Tanya? Beautiful, well-educated. Who got knocked up by who knows who, despite her education and upbringing. And you, like an idiot, are ready to take on the child of some unknown bastard. You can't bring her into our house. This is my house too. But you're right, there's nothing to do in this house. You'll never live anyway. Mom, I'm your son and you're making me choose. Don't you know who I'll choose? If Ava doesn't agree, I won't marry her. I've heard your opinion, and I won't come for your blessing. Oh, I don't want to see that girl in my house. So we've had our talk. We're clear. Of course, my parents love Jack. They started the construction business just for their sons. Jack graduated from college and worked alongside his parents, gaining experience. Somewhat imperceptibly, it was he who became the head of the business, and no one objected. He had knowledge and some special entrepreneurial flair. His parents were proud of their son, so the decision to marry some homeless girl, even pregnant, was a blow to them. They didn't understand how he even saw her. In their opinion, smart and promising boys do not see girls of this kind. Mom was surprised to realize that her boy was not ready to submit to the will of his parents. Of course, he would not break up with them because of Ava, but he would definitely distance himself and live his own life. Or rather, his life with Ava. When longtime friends who have grown children get together, the conversation is usually about the children. How talented, how successful they are. No, I do not keep my child near me. He has long been independent, and he has his own life. They say. No one admits that she would tie him to herself with a rope if she could, just not to let him go. They do. Of course, they accept it, but deep down they are sure that they will never love anyone as they love their mother, as if they themselves were not young and did not run after their love, forgetting about their parents. That's the way it was. Who to run after? What about this? Jack's parents couldn't decide what to do. They weren't going to accept Jack's choice, but they couldn't risk their relationship with their son. They were hoping Ava would say no. Jack had said she didn't want to hear about marriage. But Mom didn't believe that calculating bitch. She soberly reasoned that Ava was just explaining herself. Who would refuse the prospect of marrying a young, not poor from all sides positive man, in addition, and have a child in marriage? Besides, Jack did not back down, persistently proving his love to Ava. Ava got used to him always being around, attentive, caring. She and her mom needed help, of course. It was hard for two women, one of them pregnant, to keep house. They needed a man's hands. And Jack was always there running to help at the first call. Mom would look at Ava and sigh. Why is her daughter so stupid? Can't she see that the guy loves her? What is waiting for? Ava saw and understood everything. It is necessary to make a decision, either to agree or to let Jack go and in the end, to come to terms. Her challenge: start building a life without her. She liked Jack. Is Mom right? Was he really the solution to all her problems? Ava was ready to say yes, but she was very confused about how Jack's parents felt about it. Ava, if you don't want to live with your parents, we won't. I wasn't planning on living in this town my whole life. I've already got plans and plans. We'll move in and move out. And Mom and Dad are not going anywhere. They'll get over it. Don't push yourself. There's still time. You have the baby first, then we'll think about it. No, the baby has to be born in wedlock. Then we'll have to adopt. There are bound to be kind people who, out of natural honesty, will tell him that, Daddy, you're not his own. And then they'll be curious to see how it turned out. This way, there's no digging. There's a mom and a dad on the birth certificate. I promise I'll think about it. I don't think it'll take too long. Pregnancy is a temporary condition, after all. You can't ask me to wait. Eva didn't tell Dilshod that part of her story. No need for him to know. Briefly, the story sounded like this. She lived with her mother, got married, gave birth to a daughter. There was nothing further to hide, and Eva told it as it was, except for some details. Jack had talked her into it, after all. Or maybe not Jack, but a mom who wanted her daughter to be happy. Or maybe it was her friend, Ayla, who thought Eva was crazy and methodically impressed upon her the need to get married. Don't be a fool. You'll regret missing Jack. You'll be like your mother, alone all your life. Mom's getting married, by the way. Do you want to wait till you're old enough to start a happy new life? Aren't you planning on getting married early? Look around you. Hey man, where are you? There's only one decent one chasing after you. If he'd seen me, I'd have gone to pieces, but I didn't let him get away. And you're turning your nose up at him? Ava, don't be silly. How will you and your mom raise a child on her salary and your maternity pay? You have a secure life in your hands with a man who loves you. Ava finally made up her mind. In the childhood memory of Maya, who had barely experienced the world, there was a cheerful, happy time. Jack had been a great father, a caring husband. And now Ava preferred not to remember how much effort and patience it had cost them to convince Jack's parents of the correctness of the wedding decision. Let the past be the past. Years later, when Ava and Dilshod met again, she realized that she had made the right choice. Even though she had managed to keep the most important feelings, she could no longer rely on fate for everything. Fatally, there might not be another chance. Ayla continued to insist. Ayla, I don't just want someone who loves me, I want someone who loves me. No, come on. Wait for your Dilshod. 30 years will pass, and then you will meet an aged, knocked-down man who won't remember your name. He might not even remember it anymore. You can't remember everyone you slept with at the resort. All sides pressed, and pressed. Really, why play the princess when you're in the wrong position? What love? What Dilshod? Will there ever be love? And Jack is a very good man. Maybe I'll fall in love later. But now I have to get married, have a child, and live a calm, stable life. And we'll think about love later, as Ayla says. And Ava agreed. Jack, as promised, did not bring her to her parents' house. Right after the modest wedding, he took her to another city. There was a small apartment and a modest company for the construction of private houses. After the birth of Mia, Ava stayed at home for another year and then decided that not then studied. She got a job in a company organizing international conferences as a translator. After a couple of years, she became head of the translation department. Her constant friend Ayla worked there too and was an invaluable employee. No one worked with the Japanese better than her. A quiet family life flowed without outbursts, but it was stable. Ava even believed that she and Jack had the perfect family. There was no passion, but there was respect and understanding. Everything suited her, and she somehow missed the moment when Jack got tired of living without outbursts. He wanted emotions and strong feelings. The start of the conference was delayed by 8 hours. Something at the organizers did not go well, and Ava suddenly had an unscheduled day off. It was a shame that they hadn't warned her in the morning. We could have stayed at home. It was a shame not to take Maya to the garden. A whole day with her daughter was a luxury. Ava dreamed of how she would arrive home calmly and without hurry, drink coffee, go to the store and finally prepare a full family dinner. It was rare to be able to calmly prepare something delicious. Everything was a rush job. I should call Jack and tell him not to be late, Ava thought. She entered the apartment, went straight to the kitchen, turned on the coffee maker and went into the bedroom to change. She opened the door and caught her husband Jack in the arms of his secretary. The situation was scandalous and awkward, and apparently only Ava was embarrassed. The secretary sat down covered with a blanket, her eyes glittering with undisguised superiority. Jack, embarrassed at first, immediately made a confident face and opened his mouth to say something. "Don't bother. I realized it's not what I thought," Ava said. "Your innovative meeting doesn't distract me. I just happened to drop by. I'm leaving. But why don't you stay out tonight? I do not want to find out in front of the child." Leaving the apartment, Ava heard the secretary saying something to Jack, apparently explaining to him the advantages of the situation. No more hiding, he was all hers now. Ava didn't react to his sharp barking in return. Apparently, Jack didn't appreciate his happiness. Walking through the park, Ava wondered where she would be until the evening. She was offended and somehow squeamish, but there was no tragedy. She suddenly realized sharply that it was bound to happen sooner or later. It was the wrong calculation. You can't marry without love. No more heartbreak for her. But for Jack, it's all over for him. He was looking for happiness, filling the void, hoping that love would be enough for two, but he couldn't bear its coldness. And all those years he endured. I feel sorry for him and sorry for myself. Well, I'm so defective. I don't bring happiness to anyone, Ava thought. She called Ayla. Girlfriend, hang in there. I will come, and you will listen to the confession of a woman who ruined the life of herself and a very good man. Ava, it's all bullshit. Come, I'll buy you a cup of tea and listen to everything. And my family life didn't work out, but I have Mia and a job. I can live. Mom also began to write out a four. She was going to get married, many years of thinking, and now she decided. She was very worried that her daughter wouldn't approve, but Ava looked at the situation differently. If Mom is getting married, it means that she really needs it to be with this person. Ava was dating her chosen one, a little wordy and thorough. His attitude toward her mom was so warm and sincere that Ava's heart sank. Maybe someday someone will love me like that, look at me like that, Ava dreamed. She believed that there would definitely be another chance for happiness, and for now she had to let go of the past and live for the future. Her mother was worried about leaving her daughter here alone. Her daughter assured her that she would manage on her own and would be happy to go on vacation. There must be at least one happy woman in the family. Why not you? Mom asked with a smile. We said goodbye, kissed, and Mom left. I was so sad I felt like howling. I was happy for my mom, but I wanted to be happy for myself. Jack left the apartment to Ava and left. Not to his secretary, though. It didn't work out there either. Ava never tried to get him back. This page has been turned. Be happy. She wished. Nonsense. A daughter, work, Ayla with endless novels. Adrenaline was enough. No time to be bored. And love? What about love? I'm glad I had love. At least I know what it is. Thanks. As I promised my mother, we went on vacation to her place. I was a little nervous. What if Mom is unhappy, regretting her decision? But my mom was absolutely happy. Spontaneously told me what a wonderful husband she has. What an extraordinary city, and what fishing. Look what mushrooms she picked herself. I'll give you some to take with you. And there's some jam made of taiga berries. You can have that too. Mom, calm down. I'm not taking the jars. You don't tell me about mushrooms and berries, you tell me about yourself. What's there to talk about? I'm guilty before you, you old fool. I persuaded you to marry Jack. I thought it would be better so I wouldn't be alone. I've only just realized that you can't be without love. I guess it's funny when an old lady talks about love. But, I'm not ashamed. I've never been happier. And my husband is so reliable, I don't even doubt it's forever. We'll live together as long as we have left. Mommy. Ava hugged her mom and couldn't hold back her tears. You're happy now. And I'm happy for you. Yeah, I'm happy. You're happy. I don't want to drown in happiness. Tell me, are you still living alone? Is married life so bad that you can't even hope? Looking at you, and I hope so. Don't be sarcastic. You don't have to wait until you're my age to get married. Mom grinned. That's right, Eva thought. There's more to come. Maybe fate will smile on me. Eva returned home feeling that life went on. She felt that there were bound to be new opportunities and happiness ahead. She just needed to open her heart to the new. Whether it's my third eye or my heart, you won't be alone for long, Natasha said, smiling. Me. Thank you, Vanga. Ava grinned. Zanga was not Vanga, but Dilshod was on the plane. Ava, avoiding sharp corners, told him her story. Dilshod, listening to her, thought how similar their lives were. It was like one life for two. And now they were standing together at the edge of the sea, as if these years, shed tears and ridiculous marriages had never happened. Conference lasted 10 days. It was possible to make the schedule tighter and to meet in 5, but the organizers were understanding people. Participants flew from different parts of the country. Many met only at such forums. It was necessary to give them an opportunity to communicate. They seldom managed to have a rest. Because they are busy, they do not go on vacation for years. And here it was, the sea, July. Dilshod was eternally grateful to the organizers, to his own management, and to his prudence that had plugged his ears in time. Otherwise, he would never have met Ava. One day, Ava said that she was sure to be home in the evening. Ayla would be flying in. Before Ava left, Ayla announced that she had a real prince in her net. I'm leaving, but I promise I'll be back. Carlson, where are you going? Where are you, Prince on a white horse? You're the one who gave me this job, remember? You asked me to work with the Arab delegation. I'm a Jap, but I agreed to help out my home agency. Man, as many times as I say it, it still sounds like a swear word. But I agreed to help out, although Arabic is not my specialty. So there it was, either a prince or the illegitimate son of some sheik. I didn't know much about him, but he's good-looking. Those black eyes would drive anyone crazy. You must have been driven crazy. Are you going to join a harem? How many wives does he have? Which one are you going to be? Ava, don't take me for a fool. I'm not getting married. Remember the classics? We all learn a little bit of something and a little bit of how. I didn't learn anything. I know what the Arab mentality is. Ayla looked at her friend seriously. I'm not going into a harem, but I want to experience something new. There are rules, there are restrictions, but there is magic in those eyes. Ayla always seemed to be one step ahead, trying new things and not afraid to experiment. Maybe she should take a risk, too, if that's how fate worked out. After all, life is so short, and sometimes you want to let something unusual, new and exciting into. No. All right, then wait for me tonight. We'll meet Ayla. The future was becoming clearer and clearer. Ava felt that something important and special was ahead of her. The fact that I'm a foreigner doesn't matter. The main woman still wants gifts and adoration. If I'm fed up, I'm out of here and I don't remember my name. So I'm out. I won't bring it up. A place on a yacht on the seas, on the waves. And then I'm a delicate nature. I can't go on like this. Goodbye, my love. Hello to my wives. I want to live in luxury and adoration for a month, Yella finished. And the goal, of course, desperate. But there must be some sense of self-preservation. Aren't you afraid? As it turns out, no. What should I do with her? Ava shook her head thoughtfully. It's useless to talk her out of it. I can't do anything to make her understand and say, you're doing the right thing, but my conscience won't allow it. The only thing to do is to pray that she'll come back, alive and well. Oh, Ayla, why don't you learn from life? How many risks can you take? Ava couldn't cancel the meeting with her friend. So it's been a month on pins and needles. She couldn't lose her evening with Dilshod either. How many evenings do they have left? So Dilshod was invited to Ava's house for the first time. It was unseemly to look around, but Dilshod secretly looked at Ava's house. He wondered how she lived. It was obvious that she lived well, not poor. But you can't hide loneliness. One pillow on the bed, one cup on the table. And it's his fault, he's sure of it now. If it can't be undone, it can be fixed. They once said that fate chooses. No, it doesn't. It gives you a choice. And what you choose is your decision. Dilshod chose Ava. He chose her a long time ago. Always knew it. All that's left is to explain to fate that it's the right choice. Fate don't turn away. Help. While Dilshod was philosophizing about fate, materialism broke into Ava's apartment in the form of burnt and shining Ayla. She swooped down on Ava, hugged her, and kissed her. Dilshod didn't notice her at once. God, what a specimen, Ayla exclaimed, looking at Dilshod from head to toe. True, the specimen reacted sluggishly. Usually they react more actively to the clogging beauty. I see, busy. Is it Ava? Ayla, meet Ava. This is Dilshod. Now, come on, what's the one? Would you at least give me a hint that this place is all Hollywood? George Clooney, no less. I'm sorry, I just wasn't expecting this news. Ayla was a little embarrassed, but she pulled herself together. Well, if that's the case, let's celebrate together. Ava smiled and invited everyone to the Dilshod, and Ava exchanged glances of understanding and hope. Ayla, as always, was cheerful and funny, but even she felt the special atmosphere in the room. Dilshod decided that now he would not miss his chance. He realized that fate had given him an opportunity to correct the past and start a new chapter with Ava, and now he would fight for their joint happiness no matter what. Such an evening was the beginning of a new stage in the lives of all three of them. I guess things will really be different now. And who knows, maybe this meeting will be fateful for all involved. What was the wind that brought such a man to us? Ayla asked loudly. Dilshod was stunned by such a pressure and could only mumble, accidentally. A business trip. It's not an accident, it's fate. Ayla made a beastly face, bit her lip, and went at Dilshod, glaring with her eyes. If you hurt Ava, you'll die. Ayla suddenly changed her tone. Come on, let's eat. It became clear to Dilshod why Ayla was so successful with the Arabs. Her energy and directness could make anyone respect her. They sat down in the kitchen without much ceremony. Everyone was tired. Ava and Dilshod after a long day's work, Ayla from the road, hungry. There were no conventions. Ayla began to tell in colors about her Arabian vacation. We laughed and had fun. How tired I am of these golden princes. Her voice was so wistful that it gave me goosebumps. I remember how Ava talked about you, Dilshod. I was jealous. Of what? Lost. Lost. If you get lost again, I won't forgive you. You'll ruin the whole fairy tale about the enchanted princess and the prince who saved her. So knights and princesses, shall we look at each other enigmatically or drink tea? Dilshod asked. No sooner had they drank tea than someone burst through the door, knocking, ringing, even kicking, I think. Ava was frightened, and Ayla went to the closet in search of a stick. Dilshod went to open the door. A drunken man stood outside the door, practically collapsed in the apartment. Ava, come here. Who's that? Should I bring him in or take him out? It's Jack, my ex-husband. Ava sighed. Holy shit. Was it love? Ayla marveled. Jack was lifted up, sat down in the corridor, smelling salts, water, coffee, and put under cold water. Then coffee again, sweet tea. After an hour and a half, he began to realize where he was, but couldn't remember how he'd gotten here. Ava, how did I get here? It's a mystery. I can't figure it out until I sober up. I don't drink. No, you don't. Ayla stood up for him. Ava, you know he doesn't drink. What had to happen to make him like this? Ayla asked. Jack, how did you get here? Do you remember? Ava asked. No, nowhere, out of nowhere, Jack answered. Dilshod watched the situation with interest. It was an unexpected turn of events. But he realized that the most important thing now was to support Ava. Jack, you need to rest and come to your senses, Ava insisted. Then we'll figure out what happened. They took him to the guest room. Dilshod felt mixed feelings. On the one hand, pity for this man. On the other hand, the desire to protect Ava from his problems. When Jack finally fell asleep, the trio returned to the kitchen. The awkwardness in the room was gradually fading away. Well, Dilshod, Ava finally exhaled. Welcome to our drama. It's nothing, Ava, he smiled. The important thing is that we are together. Let's try to take something positive out of this. Ayla, not missing the opportunity, put the kettle on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's at least drink tea. There will be no shortage of emotions in our lives. Everyone laughed. Life was full of surprises, and they should be taken with humor. And maybe that's what united them all at such a difficult moment. Nice. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Really, I don't understand why I suddenly came to my ex-wife. Jack began to apologize, slowly coming to his senses. No, it's called residual memory, when a person doesn't remember anything after a trauma. It's just bits and pieces that pop up. Your ex-wife popped up. I wish it was something else. Ayla tried to make a joke. No. Did you bump your head anywhere? Dilshod intervened. Dilshod, leave your hospital humor. You, Ava, warned him. He came and came. If he wants to, he will tell it himself. They put Jack to bed, and they had tea at last. It was time to leave, but Dilshod couldn't leave Ava and her ex-husband in the same apartment and couldn't find any reason to stay. Ayla, enterprising and straightforward as always, came to the rescue. Ava, you don't want to spend the night here with your ex-husband, do you? I don't want to, but what can I do? I won't let him out in his condition. You don't have to. Ayla looked at her slyly. And you take Dilshod out. You could use a walk now, Ayla. Are you kicking me out of the house? Ava, I'm begging you, give me a chance. You know I've had my eye on Jack for a long time, and now this is my chance. And you, she said to Dilshod and Ava, I'll tell you that 7 years ago, you were much more determined. Will you wait for another 7 years? Let him spend the night and then just kick us out of the apartment. If you're so modest, you can walk promenade all night and leave me alone. I have big plans for this night, Ayla said firmly. Dilshod, though he remembered his turbulent youth, when it was easy to start a relationship that quickly turned into bed, could not think how to tell Ava to agree to go to the hotel with him. Ava, where will you spend the night? Why don't we go to my place? He finally suggested. Yes, Ava replied simply. That simple, yes, shook Dilshod. What an idiot, he thought. Why had he searched so badly all this time? Lost 7 years of his life, now almost a week more. She loves him. And he loves her. And it had been just as bad all these years. In the morning, Dilshod looked at Ava sleeping for a long time and did not dare to wake her up. He was afraid she would say, "I'm sorry, it was all a mistake." But when she slowly opened her eyes and smiled at him, all doubts dissolved. "Good morning," Ava said softly, looking at him tenderly. "Good morning," Dilshod replied, feeling that he was on the threshold of a new, extremely important chapter in their life. "You haven't changed your mind, have you?" Ava asked warily, feeling the same uncertainty. "No," Dilshod said confidently, leaning towards her for a kiss. "Then, how did you sleep?" "Good. I slept even better when I didn't," Dilshod replied, reaching out and kissing Ava. That kiss made his heart sink and goosebumps ran all over his body. "Ava, we haven't been living happily ever after until today. It's time to fix it. We need to live a life of pleasure, joy. Let's decide if you're coming to my place or I'm coming to yours." "Hey, I'm blonde. I have to say everything twice." "Was that an offer?" "Yes, or I told you I don't get it the first time." "Say it again." Yes. Dilshod smiled. There were only 3 days left till the departure. They wanted to stay together, but each of them had urgent matters to attend to. Dilshod had to write a review of a colleague's work. Ava had to form a team of translators to work at an international conference. After completing her duties, Ava stopped by the hospital to see her daughter Mia. They walked around for almost an hour until the nurse came to pick up the girl. Looking at the child's unhappy face, Ava almost cried herself. More than anything, she wanted to take her little princess home. The attending doctor calmed her down, saying that according to the examination results, there was nothing wrong with the girl. Just age-related problems, a couple more days of observation, and she could go home. When Ava returned home, she found the apartment empty. Ayla and Jack had left, and Larry the parrot was wandering around the room. He hadn't flown for a long time, but he was free to get out of his cage, though he couldn't get back in. "How long have you been wandering, poor thing? You're a wretched mouse. No drink, no food. What's that garbage? Are you renovating? You're not a rodent, you're a bird." Ava put her palm on Larry's hand. "Wait, come on, I'll feed you." He greeted her with a hi, and went to the floor to her palm. After feeding Larry, Ava took a shower, put on a light resort sundress, and went to Riviera Park where they had agreed to meet Dilshod. Dilshod was eager to see the best park in the city. He was delighted with the palm trees, ran up and hugged each tree, demanding that Ava take a picture of him with that particular palm tree. "Ava, look, it's a real palm tree. Take a picture, please." Ava laughed as she took a picture of Dilshod in the palm tree's embrace. You are like a little child," she smiled. How could it be otherwise? We live in gray megacities in here. Palm trees, see? I want to memorize every moment, every detail. They walked through the park, enjoying the moment and reveling in each other. Perhaps these 3 days were the happiest they had been in years. Time flew by unnoticed. Ava suddenly realized that her old life was becoming a thing of the past and a new chapter was ahead, which she wanted to live with Dilshod. As they looked over each other, they realized that they would not let go of this trip or this memory. So much had already been lost. "Ava, let's not waste any more time." Dilshod said, taking her hand. "We deserve—" "Yes, Dilshod, we deserve." "God, Dilshod, have you decided to keep the pictures of all the palm trees of this city as a memento?" Ava laughed. "I'll print them out full size and stick them all over the fence. Can you imagine? It will be beautiful. Snowdrifts, cedars, and palm trees. And we have enough sunshine of our own." "By the way, you'll have to fly far away," said Dilshod. "Why? You said your mom lives far away now. I need to organize a viewing to present my future son-in-law. And I need to show off my bride and my granddaughter to my parents. They're looking forward to it. Do you think Jack's going to give us permission to adopt you, Dilshod? Aren't you in a hurry? You've been stalling for so many years, and now you want it all at once." "Yes, I want it all. By the way, the fact that both your parents and mine live in the same city is an additional argument in favor of moving. And then, if I understand correctly, getting married in it is a family thing." "Me? Why are you so hard on the girl? I have to think about it." "Oh, please. And you should think only about our future life together." Dilshod jokingly insisted. Ava was talking to Dilshod, but she couldn't get rid of the feeling of unreality. Here he was, next to her, her favorite, the only man in her life. And there was no such thing as happiness. You close your eyes and everything disappears. I'll close them later when he's gone. In the meantime, I'll keep my eyes open, thought Ava. Last day before the flight was unbearable. Her heart stopped every time she thought of him flying away, and that was it. She wouldn't see him again. So accustomed was she to suffering for lost love that she could not believe in the possibility of happiness. Dilshod about the same feelings. He could not bring himself to tear himself away from Ava. It seemed that if he let her out of his arms, he would lose her. Ava wanted to accompany him to the airport, but he forbade it. Let's say goodbye here. Saying goodbye against the backdrop of airplanes is heartbreaking. It's like a sign of hopelessness. Ava, come to me as soon as you can. I love you and I don't want to live without you. Please don't disappear. He hugged her tightly, trying to memorize the feeling. Bad habit again, Ava said softly, looking into his eyes. I'm waiting for you. Her Dilshod flew away. Ava slowly came to her senses and started working, which, to be honest, she had neglected. Her thoughts were occupied with memories of the past days and hope for the future. She knew that their meeting would be the beginning of a new life. She was scared but happy at the same time. She would wait for him. Her heart was full of love and anticipation. And so, she went back to work, forming a group of translators, preparing reports. Gradually, she returned to her normal rhythm, but in the corner of her mind, she was constantly thinking, Dilshod is waiting. Dilshod is the future. Ava suddenly remembered that her naughty friend Ayla had disappeared somewhere. No phone calls, no letters. It's not good. She's in trouble again, Ava thought. But with the daughter they had just discharged, Ayla wasn't the least bit concerned. Sorry, girlfriend, we'll save you later, Ava mumbled, plunging into household chores. Fortunately, Ayla showed up on her own, and from the looks of it, there was no need to rescue her. As always, hurricane fireworks. The apartment felt crowded. Maya threw herself on her neck. And Ayla, missed you so much, the girl shouted happily. With you always so much fun. And I brought presents. There were squeals, songs, dances, and everything at once. We made a lot of noise and played. Mia took care of the new toys, and the friends went to the kitchen. Ava could see that Ayla wanted to tell her everything. I can't take it anymore, Ava thought. How many days she had kept silent, realizing that it was not up to her. Finally, we can talk like two happy women, Ava said, smiling. Ayla's revelations were not a surprise to her. Knowing her friend well, she guessed that she wouldn't let Jack go now. She had always thought that Ava underestimated Jack, didn't realize what kind of husband she had. Ava settled, and Jack's a derelict. I never interfered before because what if they got back together? And now, Ava was sure Jack was in trouble. He wouldn't get out. Ayla said something, and Ava listened, half-heartedly. What was there to listen to? It was obvious. She reached for the cup, and it slipped out and broke. "Oh, Ava, for luck," Ayla exclaimed. "It's a great blessing to break a cup, friend. You've got the wrong hands." "You've got the wrong hands. I think I've got the wrong head. Tell me why I'm so stupid. I keep falling for the same thing. I fall in love again, and I can't live without him again. Ava, if you and Jack have any hope of keeping your family together, you tell me. I won't interfere." "Ayla, my fool. What hope?" Ava grinned. "I forgot about him." "So the flag in your hand?" "No. Are you serious?" Ayla couldn't believe her happiness. "Absolutely." Ayla hugged her friend. "Me. Thank you. I'll really try my best then. He's a good man. He just ended up with the wrong person." "Ayla, you know I only want your happiness. And if it's Jack, go ahead. He deserves to be happy." As she exhaled, Ayla felt a mountain fall from her shoulders. Everything was clear and understandable now. She hugged her friend tighter, feeling gratitude and joy. "Good. Then we'll all be happy together, each of us finding our own happiness," Ayla concluded. Ava nodded, feeling peace and tranquility really settle in her soul. Everything is in its place. And most importantly, they continue to be there for each other. "No, I'll be glad. He's a good man. It's a shame he fell for me. Ruined his life." "Ava, sorry. Why did he show up here so handsome?" She asked, laughing. "After you might say, he went on a hand-to-hand basis. 1, 2, 3. But it's not the same. No one is needed. After breaking up with another bimbo, he got bored. He got drunk and his feet brought him, like your doctor said. It's a residual memory. He remembered where he was happy," Ayla explained. "Oh, Ava, enough with the experiments. Let's try to be happy. Are you going to Dilshod?" "No, I'm not going. I'm flying. I thought I was imagining things. Dilshod couldn't live a dream of meeting me like I did. But if you don't check, you won't know. If I let go of happiness for the second time out of fear, there won't be a third chance. I think Dilshod loves you. Don't ruin his life again, said Ayla. It's not going to be easy for me with Jack. Damn residual memories. The friends sat crying and consoling each other, realizing that fate had taken a sharp turn. The main thing was to guess in which direction. If here there were doubts and guesses, Dilshod had nothing to doubt. He told his parents the story of his and Ava's love story and announced that Ava and her daughter would soon arrive. As soon as he stammered that he asked them to treat the girl as his daughter, Ravshan's mother interrupted. Son, don't disappoint me. I thought I'd raised a real man. And now you are acting like a foolish youngster. You're going to bring home the woman you've loved for so many years. What does it matter how many children she has? No matter how many, they're all ours. Dilshod walked over and hugged his mom. He always knew he had the best parents in the world, and maybe his dream of having a family like his parents would come true. It was late August when Ava decided it was time to fly. She and Dilshod called back every day. He hurried her, bored her, begged her. Come quickly. I am waiting for you so much. Mia was excited, packing her bags. Are we going to Uncle Dilshod's? She rejoiced. How wonderful. He is so cheerful and Ava went to the kitchen and called her mother. Mom, we are coming to see you in a week. Ava, what's wrong? You were just here. No, something happened. I'll tell you when I get there. Don't worry, everything's fine. Or aren't you? No, fuck your tongue. What are you talking about? But I won't be able to sleep with worry. Give me a hint. I've got a fiancé. I'm getting married. I'll fly in and introduce you. That's right. We have all the most worthy suitors. Don't you know that? The anticipation and worries of the trip began. Time was so short that I couldn't even meet Ayla. I wondered how she was getting on with Jack, but suddenly Jack showed up on his own. He hadn't been around much since the divorce, except for the one time he'd been brought back by residual memories. And here he came in looking lost. It was clear he was about to have a serious conversation, although Ava didn't want to have a heart-to-heart talk, especially with her ex-husband, and had his ear. Mia exclaimed happily, running to him. As they chatted, Ava tried to guess why Jack had come and what it would cost her. Well, other than wasted time, after Mia was put to bed, Jack went to the kitchen. Sitting down, he asked for tea and drank it in silence. Ava realized the moment had come. Mash. Don't waste time. If you have something to say, say it. Ava, I'm sorry about the horseplay. I really don't know what brought me here. I don't remember much. Ayla told me later that Dilshod Mia's father was here. I don't even remember him. You know, that's the most painful part. I didn't see the man of my wife's dreams. Ayla told me how he reappeared in your life. Miracles. He saved Maya too. I understand you two are together now. Not exactly. But in 2 days, Mia and I will fly to visit him for a while. We'll see what happens. Jack, I'm so sorry I ever agreed to marry you. I ruined your life. Come on. I wanted it, Jack said. I think we were all in a bad place at the time, Ava added. But you also realize that happiness can be found beyond our past mistakes. Jack nodded and sighed. No, it's just, I'd like to be a part of Mia's life. Maybe not always, but at least sometime. No, of course, Jack. You'll always be her daddy. We'll find a way to make that happen. Nay, thank you, Ava. And good luck to you and Dilshod. I wish you happiness. You too, Jack. I wish you find your happiness. They both realized that this conversation had helped them put their complicated history to rest and move on without any more guilt or regret. I realize now that I shouldn't have forced you. It didn't help you or myself, Jack said, looking into his teacup. All right, enough with the nobility. That's not why I'm here. I've realized by now that the best thing to do is to stay on good terms. You don't mind, do you? It's better than enemies. Besides, Mia's my daughter, even if she's not my own. Actually, I have another question, a touchy one. I like Ayla, but she's your friend. It's embarrassing. So you've come for a blessing, my dear. Oh my gosh, you're asking your ex-wife for permission to date her friend. Jack, don't be a fool. You're the most loyal person you'll ever find. Did she get over you picking me? She did. When you married me, she came to visit. She suffered, but she didn't say a word. Even I didn't realize how serious it was. Oh, Jack, you picked the wrong girl. You'd have been happy a long time ago. If you like her, don't pass her up. Thank you. I picked the right wife after all. Too bad she didn't love me. Shit, I wish I'd seen that Dilshod. Now I'd know what a dream man looks like. I want everything to work out for you. And let the girl have 2 daddies. Does that happen? Of course it does. Ava smiled. May everything work out well for Ayla. She waited for her man too, and she won't go after any other Arab. Ayla came to see Ava and Maya off at the airport. Tears, snot, as if her friend was going not to her beloved, but to a penal servitude, to exile. She'll rot, she'll be lost, we won't see each other again. Ava couldn't help smiling. It was pleasant and funny from such a tragedy. She even forgot about her personal life. Ayla was so worried. Well, Ayla, is it time? She asked, smiling. It's time, friend, Ayla answered. Let everything be all right. And so that time came. At the airport, Ava and Mia settled down to wait for boarding. You know, Mom, I'm so glad we're going to have a new life, Maya whispered as she hugged Ava. Me too, my daughter. We're together. And that's the most important thing. Ayla stood in the airport doorway, looking at them. Good luck to you, my darlings, she whispered. May everything work out for you. Dilshod could not find a place for himself. He met each day with the thought of Ava and Mia's imminent arrival. And now, finally, it had happened. Tears of happiness and strong hugs. These moments of life were the beginning of a new chapter for them. Something happy, and perhaps even perfect, was ahead, weighing nervously in the airplane seat. Ava contemplated her plans. What if no one is waiting? Maybe it's a momentary weakness, nostalgia for youth, the euphoria of meeting. What if it was mistaken for love? Maybe love is long gone and what's left are just pleasant memories. She stared wistfully out the window, immersed in thoughts of what lay ahead. All this time, the anticipation had kept her on edge. But now, being in the airplane, she was getting anxious. Meanwhile, Dilshod arrived at the airport an hour before the flight. He couldn't sit at home, and he couldn't sit at the airport either. He was rushing around the arrival hall. His parents were rushing to meet their daughter-in-law, but Dilshod stopped them on the threshold. I'm on edge myself, he said. I can't bear to look after you. Have you set the table? No, of course. You know how airplane food is, Mom said. Well, wait, we lived without Ava all our lives. We'll survive a couple hours more, my mother reassured. But Dilshod had no more patience. Where is that airplane? It's time. They announced the arrival of the flight. Dilshod rushed to the arrival area, but he still had to wait for the passengers to enter the hall. He looked around the crowd impatiently and suddenly saw Ava and her daughter. Relief came over. As soon as they landed, Ava felt slightly anxious. But when she saw Dilshod with a huge bouquet of flowers and a wide smile on his face, her doubts vanished. Hello, Ava. Hello, Mia, Dilshod said happily, hugging them. I have been waiting for this moment. So have we, said Ava, feeling her heart fill with warmth and confidence. It was clear that these were not just pleasant memories. This was true love. Ava suddenly realized that everything had worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. They had found their happiness, and nothing could stop them now on the way to the city. Ava tried several times to say that she would go to live with her mother, but Dilshod didn't listen. You will live with me. Now we are going to my parents. They are going crazy there. They were ready to run to the airport to see you. Well, will my mom be worried? She knows we've already arrived. Well, we'll call and tell her we'll be there tomorrow. My parents met me at the gate. They'd obviously been waiting for hours. Who was more worried? It was hard to tell. They say mothers-in-law never like their daughters-in-law, but that was not true of Rafshana. She liked Ava from the very beginning. She wanted such a wife for her son. Beautiful, intelligent, sensitive, and in love with Dilshod. Mia eyed the strangers she had been brought to and began to study them with childlike curiosity. Hello, Ava, Rafshana said with a smile, hugging her. Welcome to our family. We are so glad you and Mia have come. Shens with it felt her heart light up at those words. Her doubts began to fade. She was welcome here with joy and warmth. Hello, Ava replied, smiling. Thank you for the warm welcome. We are very happy to be here. Dilshod smiled, looking at this scene. He realized that with such a start, they were bound to succeed. After all, sometimes life gives a second chance, and it is important not to miss it. Shall we go home? You must be tired from the road, Dilshod suggested, taking Maya in his arms. Dilshod's parents cared for them, and Ava felt that perhaps this was where happiness awaited her. In this house, these people could become a real family for her and Mia. Oh, Mommy, who's that? Mia asked, looking at the strangers. They are your grandparents, Ava answered, smiling. I already have grandparents. Trust me, the more the better. Grandparents are not superfluous. The day passed like a blur. Ava had no experience with her husband's parents. She had a husband, but never a father-in-law and mother-in-law. She felt a slight embarrassment and tried to keep the conversation going, but she was afraid to say the wrong thing. It was a strange feeling, when you want to like the people you see for the first time because your future fate may depend on it. But it was simple. No one pretended, no one tried to look better than they were. Dilshod's parents were easy and pleasant to talk to. In 2 hours, Ava was already chatting with them as if they had known each other for a long time. Shauna immediately began to call Ava her daughter, as if her son had brought not a girl to get acquainted, but his lawful wife. It was pleasant and unusual. Anna quickly got used to it and realized that these grandparents were the same as the ones she knew. They gave her everything delicious and did not let her off their knees. It made her happy that she had many grandparents now. When Ava and Mia were on their way to the car, Shauna quietly called her son. "Nai, Dilshod, son, why didn't you tell me you had a daughter? Why did you abandon her?" "Mom, what are you doing?" "This is Ava's daughter from her first husband." "Are you blind?" "She's your daughter. Don't say anything now." "Then ask Ava. I'm sure she'll confirm it. You said you had an affair. You do the math. I know it'll add up. I don't have to count. It was you when you were a kid." "No," Shauna said, looking into her son's eyes. Dilshod believed it once. How could he not have guessed it himself? He wouldn't even ask. "It's my poor you, how hard it was for you," he thought. "Now all the troubles are over and no one will dare to offend." The thought that he had a daughter did not quite fit in his head. You can't just get used to it. But a wave of joy was already running through his body. As they drove home, Dilshod realized that his life had changed forever. Happiness and joy filled him. He hugged Ava and Maya. "Now, here you are home. We are a family now," he said warmly. Ava smiled, feeling the warmth spill over her entire body. She realized that all her doubts and fears were gone, for here she had true love and support. Now she would get to his head, and he would realize everything. It would be tight for the family in Dilshod's arms, but it was a pleasant feeling. The next day was another holiday. They went to Ava's mom's house and took Dilshod's parents with them. It was necessary to introduce everyone. Mom didn't know where to seat the dear guests. She had to accommodate her daughter and granddaughter and her fiancé or husband and his parents. She was worried with confusion and did not understand what to do. A thorough husband came to the rescue. He realized that if he did not intervene, so everyone will be trampled in the yard when it is long past time to go to the table. At the table, the parents were enthusiastically discussing what the wedding would be like and where the young people would live. No one asked Ava and Dilshod in what city. Dilshod's father said indignantly, "No, only here. Everything is near, all together, and we will fly there for vacations." They had already planned the life of young people for many years ahead. Everything was so well thought out. Moms with tears in their eyes, dads reserved but excited. More tears, oohs, sighs, and kisses. Mia looked at everyone joyfully, and Ava and Dilshod were glowing with happiness. If this continued, there would be no time to get married. In the evening, Ayla called. "May, girlfriend, how are you?" Ayla asked. "I don't know. It's so good I can't believe it. Dilshod's parents are unreal. We've been visiting here all day long. They show us off like monkeys in a circus. There's no time to rest and recuperate. Yesterday I noticed that Dilshod was looking at Maya strangely, so attentive. I think he's guessing her. Maybe someone tipped him off. No one knows. Mom can guess, but even she can't know for sure. I never told her the name of Maya's father. What about me? What about you? Jack wants me to meet his parents. I'm afraid they won't like me. They hated me so much. Any other girl would be better. May, well, Jack's already proven that his parents' opinion isn't the truth. If he wants you to meet his parents, he must be serious. Go. After all, even if he doesn't like you, it's not the end of the world. The important thing is that you have feelings for each other. You're right. We should take the risk. Thank you, Ava. Hugs. We hug you too, Ayla. It's going to be okay. The important thing is to believe in yourself and that everything will work out. Find out what's going on with Jack and let us know how it goes. Ayla thought again about Jack's attentiveness to Maya. Maybe he was really starting to suspect something. But that was a conversation for the future. Right now, the main thing was to live in the flow of those happy moments that fate so generously bestowed. Everything else will be solved as it comes. Meanwhile, Ava and Dilshod were happy in the family circle, where everyone rejoiced at their happiness. They applied to the registry office. Everything was discussed and decided, and Ava started to go home. It was necessary to quit to pack and send things. They decided not to sell the apartment. Parents are already at the age. They need to rest at the sea. And frequent trips to the sea won't hurt myself. Now there are many grandmothers, and there will be someone to walk with my granddaughter. They themselves on vacation is also more pleasant to live in their own apartment. But she and her mother had already discussed it. However, Ava realized that this city would become her new home. Again began to go to the guests. Friends and relatives organized send-offs. Even if they knew they were leaving for a while, the longing still thickened. Mothers held back tears, and fathers with unperturbed faces consoled them. To the last persuaded them to leave the apartment under supervision. But Ava stood her ground. No. First of all, it's not clear how long we'll have to stay there. Secondly, there are so many of you here and I am alone. Dilshod did not want to let Ava go. Each parting felt like forever. Longing and anxiety came in waves. The sweet plans at the airport only added to the panic. He consoled himself with the thought that this was the last time they wouldn't be apart again. In the back seat, Mia was reprimanding her doll with a very serious face. Her eyebrows moved to zero. The doll must have done something wrong. Dilshod looked at her in the mirror, his heart clenched with pain and joy at the same time. He had a daughter, and he only found out about it now. Now seeing both of them off, he is left to wait and miss them. By the time Ava and Mia are announced for boarding, everyone is already in tears. The farewells went relatively quiet, leaving behind promises, calls, and dates in the future. Dilshod hugged Ava as if he was letting go of the most precious thing in his life. Hurry back. I can't wait for you long, he whispered. I will. And we will never part again, Ava replied, squeezing his hand. Dilshod looked at them until their figures disappeared behind the terminal doors. He knew things would be different now. They were family, and despite the distance, everything would soon be resolved. Their love would endure all trials, and only happiness lay ahead of her. Come back soon, my darlings, he whispered, looking after them. Dilshod stayed in the waiting room until the figures of Ava and Maya disappeared behind the terminal doors. But at that moment, he knew that their love would endure all the trials, and a happy life together was ahead of them.
Study, Louisa. With an education, you can't go anywhere, and I'll help you in any way I can, said Brianna to her daughter while she was studying at school. Louisa grew up an obedient, kind, hard-working girl. She never knew her father. She was raised by her mother and grandmother. Brianna tried hard to make sure that her daughter did not need anything and did not feel inferior to her friends. She worked all day long and only spent time with her daughter on the rare weekends she had. One day, when Louise was in 8th grade, she overheard a conversation between her mother and grandmother. How could he do that? Brianna almost cried. I trusted him, and he... What am I supposed to do now? What's the use of crying after the time? Answered Victoria. It's God's will. If it happened, then so be it. I'd like to raise Louise. Her mother wailed. And then there's this. The woman kept interrupting her phrases, so the girl could not understand what her grandmother and mother were saying. Suddenly, Brianna asked, Will you stay a couple of days with Louise while I'm in the hospital? Don't you dare, I forbid you. Victoria was indignant. These are not toys. You should have thought about it before. Now don't anger God. We'll raise it. We raised Louise and we'll raise another child. Louise dropped the textbook she was holding in her hands in surprise. Her mother came running at the sound. What's wrong? How long have you been standing there? She asked. Mom, are you going to have a baby? Ignoring her mother's question, the girl asked. No, you misunderstood everything. The woman began to twist. I need to go away for a while, and I asked Grandma to look after you. Why are you lying to me? The daughter asked. I clearly heard Grandma say that we would raise another child. Her daughter's words confused her. She flapped her eyelashes and remained silent. Victoria still did not interfere in their conversation, but seeing her daughter's confusion, she said, Louise, you are an adult and have a right to know. It just so happens that you will soon have a little sister or brother. Mom, Brianna tried to stop her. Louisa, don't listen to her. Grandma's got it all wrong. Louise hugged her mother and whispered, I've dreamed so much about having a sister. I pray for it every night, and God has heard my prayers. I will help you with everything. but don't take away my dream. Together we can do it." Brianna was moved by her daughter's words. She pressed the girl against her and cried. Seeing this picture, Victoria exhaled with relief and said, "Well, thank God, I've got it all figured out." At the due date, Brianna gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl and named her Martha. Louise, as promised, never left her sister's side. And when she was at school, Victoria took care of the baby girl. Brianna had to leave maternity leave after 3 months to keep her job. Martha's father never showed up at their house or showed any interest in their daughter, so the baby's birth certificate, like Louise's, had a dash on it. Victoria loved her granddaughters. She was very worried about them and feared that they would repeat their mother's fate. She often stroked their heads and sighed, saying, "My orphans." Louise did not understand why her grandmother called them that, because they had a mother and grandmother who loved them. But Victoria's words became prophetic. When Louise was finishing 11th grade, Victoria suddenly fell ill. The doctors couldn't make an accurate diagnosis, so they treated one thing or another. But the medicines didn't help. Every day she was getting worse and worse. Just recently, a woman full of strength was dying in front of her family. On the day when Louisa received her high school diploma, Victoria passed away. Louise wanted to go to work to help her mother raise her younger sister, but Brianna insisted that the girl continue to study. Louise entered the institute without much difficulty. Now she had less time for her sister, but she still helped her mother whenever possible. Martha grew up a bright, inquisitive, and very mobile girl. She was always happy when her sister returned from the institute and followed her around all evening. She could sit next to Olga for hours and watch her comprehend the sciences. When Martha was 5 years old and Louise was in her 3rd year at the institute, Brianna suddenly fell ill. Thinking that it was just a cold, the woman did not pay attention to it and continued to go to work. But every day she got worse and worse. When she got to the hospital, it was too late. She was diagnosed with a terrible disease that was incurable. Brianna burned out like a candle in 6 months. After burying her mother, Louise, who had just entered her 4th year of college, was left with a little sister in her arms. From the inheritance, they had only a 2-room apartment on the outskirts of the city in which they lived. Having learned about the situation in the family, the guardianship and custody authorities immediately came to visit. Despite her older sister's resistance, Marta was taken to the orphanage with the words, "You are not able to support the child. You have no permanent income, except for a scholarship, but that is not enough. Get a job and then come to us." For several days, Louise went door to door looking for work, and luck smiled on her. She found a job as a housekeeper in a wealthy house. The owner, a woman in her 50s, was looking for a housekeeper, but she needed references. After talking to Louise and finding out all the circumstances that had brought her to her, she took a liking to the girl and took her on probation. "If you're right for me, I won't hurt your salary and I'll help you get your sister back," Donna promised. Louise tried hard to please her employer, and after a few weeks she managed to get Martha out of the orphanage. She was happy, even though it was not easy for her now. Early in the morning, Louise took her sister to daycare and drove to the other side of the city, where she had to take care of the housework. Good thing, even in the lifetime of her mother and grandmother, the girl learned to manage the household. From work, she ran to the institute. In the evening, Louise would go to the kindergarten to pick up Marta, and the sisters would return home together. Marta, though she was still very young, often noticed the tiredness on her sister's face. At such times, she would sit down beside her, put her arm around her, and like an adult say, "It's hard for you, Louisa, but don't be sad. I'll grow up soon and I'll help you with everything. The main thing is that we're together. Just don't leave me." Louise hugged Marta motherly and replied with a smile, "We will definitely manage everything." Louise was pleased that she had found a job and was able to bring her sister home. Over time, she became attached to her employer. The relationship between the owner and the housekeeper was warm, even friendly. The girl was surprised by only one thing. Why does a nice in every way, kind in every way, smart, intelligent, wealthy woman lives alone? She did not dare to ask directly, and Donna did not tell anything about herself. One day, while cleaning, Louise came across a photo album and couldn't resist her curiosity. One page after another, she looked at the pictures of young Donna. Some of them showed her posing alone, Some had her friends by her side. Only one picture showed Donna with a handsome young man. It looked very happy. Engrossed in the photo, Luisa did not notice how the landlady entered the room. When she saw the photo album in her hands, she said, "All my memories are in it. Friends, colleagues, just acquaintances. And who is this?" Louise asked cautiously, pointing to the picture of a young man. "You're both so happy here." Donna sat down next to her, took the photo in her hands, looked at the smiling faces for a few minutes in silence, as if remembering the events in which it was taken, and then spoke. "You're right. We are very happy here indeed," she said. "This is Jack, my fiancé. We are 30 years old in this photo. We loved each other. I thought we're going to get married, making plans for the future." And then it was over in an instant. Donna was silent. Luisa felt that it was difficult for her mistress to remember the events of distant years and even more difficult to talk about them. The girl put her arm around Donna and rested her head on her shoulder. The woman smiled, though there was a deep sadness in her eyes. "Is he dead?" Louise tried to pull her mistress out of her memories. "Who?" Donna woke up. "Jack?" "No, he's fine, I guess." After a little more silence, the woman pulled herself together and continued. "A week before the wedding, I found out he was seeing someone else." "What do you mean?" Louise was surprised. "Why get married if you love someone else?" Donna smiled and looked at the housekeeper with a slight squint of her eyes. "You're still young. You don't understand a lot of things. You trust people, and they often take advantage of our kindness and gullibility. By my 30s, I had already achieved a lot in life. I had my own business, which developed and brought a good income. I lived in a spacious apartment and planned to buy a house. I could already afford to go on vacation twice a year. Sergei liked all this. You bet." The girl couldn't help her emotions. "He was happy to go on vacation with me," Donna continued, not paying attention to the exclamation of the housekeeper. "He made plans for our future together every day. He already had a design in his head for the house we were to live in. Us and our children. He dreamed of me having a child with him, or better yet, 2 or 3. He had it all figured out. By his own admission, he wanted to marry me, put me on maternity leave, and take my place in my business. He gradually transferred the money into his accounts and then, would fly away to his dove, who for the sake of enrichment was willing to endure all this, waiting for him." What a horror. Louise was genuinely amazed. "And where did you meet him?" 3 years before the events I described, he came to work at my company. His good education and experience spoke in his favor. Jack was a quick learner, quick to grasp things. His determination, diligence, and persistence were amazing. At first, he caught my attention as an employee. There aren't many like him. Gradually, our communication turned into a friendly one, and 2 years later, he made me an offer. I knew him only from a positive side, so I immediately agreed. Before him, I had many admirers, but in all of them I found some flaw. Jack seemed perfect to me. It's true what they say. Love is blind. When you found out about the affair, did you break up with him? Yes, I kicked him out the same day. After Sergei, no one could win your heart, Louise asked. I was already pregnant when I broke up with him, Donna admitted. I found out that day and rushed home to make my fiancé happy. But the surprise didn't work. He brought his mistress to my apartment. The woman was still surprised by her fiancé's insolence. A banal story. But it always seems to happen only in the movies or somewhere far away. But not to you. Donna summed up her story. And the baby? Louise asked. Was it born? Yes, of course it was. I had a healthy, beautiful boy at the due date, and I named him Austin. Where is he now? He's on an internship in America. He should be back soon. I admire you, Donna. Louise said with emotion. You're so strong. You made your own business. You raised your son alone, gave him a good education. Yes, I did everything for him, the woman confirmed. I felt guilty that I had deprived him of communication with his father, so I tried to fill the gap in every way I could. If clothes, shoes, then the best, branded, vacation only abroad, education European. In short, I worked day and night to provide my boy with the best. He must love you very much and appreciate everything you do for him. Louise's question remained unanswered. Donna abruptly changed the subject, remembering that she had a business appointment. Louise and her sister spent the whole weekend at Donna's house. At her mistress' request, she cleaned the rooms several times, especially the one for the young master. Finally, exhausted, the housekeeper said, "Donna, the whole house is already shining. Don't you think you've done enough cleaning?" After a second look in all the most secret corners, she agreed. "All right, it looks clean," she said, and then added, "Austin doesn't like the house to be dusty or cluttered." Early the next week, the mother was looking forward to her son's arrival. "You don't have to come tomorrow," she told Louise the day before. "Austin and I will need some alone time. It's been so long since we've seen each other." The housekeeper nodded and said goodbye. The next day after school, Louise hurried to the daycare center to pick up her sister early. The weather was overcast. It had been raining since the morning. In the afternoon, the rain stopped, but the humidity and strong wind were pervasive. Louise was standing at the bus stop waiting for the bus when a car stopped nearby. A young man got out of the car and, ignoring the people around him, headed toward the flower store behind the bus stop. Louise looked at the stranger at the door and suddenly caught herself thinking, "Lucky the girl he's going to marry will be lucky." Without realizing what it was about him that attracted her attention, she noted his confident gait, his noble bearing, his attractive appearance, and the trail of expensive cologne that followed him drove her crazy. The young man came out of the store with a gorgeous bouquet of flowers. The thought flashed through Louise's mind again. Who is the lucky girl to whom these flowers are intended? The stranger got into the car and drove off briskly. Louise, who was standing next to him, was wet and dirty from the splashing from the wheels. The car sped away, and the girl stood there, almost crying, trying to clean herself up. The first pleasant impression, which at first left a young man, was spoiled. The next morning, Louise came to work. To her surprise, Donna was in no hurry to go anywhere. She was sitting on the living room couch drinking coffee, the aroma of which wafted throughout the house. Saying hello to her hostess, the girl asked in surprise, "Are you alone? And where is your son?" "He is still asleep," answered the woman and took a sip of the fragrant drink. "You don't have to go up to the second floor today. Wipe the dust in the living room and wash the dishes left over from last night's dinner." Louise went to the dining room. She was surprised to see on the table the same bouquet of flowers that had been brought from the store by the stranger who had doused her from the puddle the day before. While the housekeeper washed the dishes, the young master went down to the living room. Turning off the water, Louise found herself an unwilling witness to part of the conversation between mother and son. "This is my life," said the young man, "and it is for me to decide how and with whom to spend it. I think I have the right to express my opinion on this," came Donna's voice. "It seems to you," answered the son and went to the dining room. When he crossed the threshold, the young man stood up in surprise. It was the stranger with the bouquet. "And who are you?" he asked, not very kindly. "Louise," she introduced herself. "I am the housekeeper." "Hey, I see," he said with what she thought was a twinge of squeamishness, and went into the refrigerator. "Can you make an omelet?" "I do, only it's not." Louise wanted to say that cooking was not her job. She preferred to cook her own food. But the young man did not want to hear her out. Apparently, it was not in his habits. "Then make it quick," he said. "I don't have much time." Louise didn't want to spoil her relationship with the landlady's son, so she took out a frying pan and began to fry an omelet. She often made this dish for breakfast in the mornings, so it was as good as a professional cook. It's been a long time since I've had an omelet like that," said Austin. "You surprised me." "Thank you." Louise realized that she was pleased with Austin's praise. At that moment, Donna entered the dining room. Now she was in full dress, as always. "I see you two have met," she said. "Thank you, Louise, for breakfast. You can be free. But don't forget to dust the living room." After finishing her work, the girl walked along the road towards the institute and replayed in her head the events of the last 2 days. Something was wrong with Donna and Austin's relationship. For all his external attractiveness, there was something repulsive in the young man's behavior. On the one hand, that gorgeous bouquet for his mother, and at the same time, the rude conversation with her in the morning. Louise remembered with what impatience Donna waited for her son, and now they behaved as if they were strangers to each other. She couldn't stop asking herself, why did Austin have such an attitude toward the closest person to her? What could she have done to displease him? And what were they arguing about in the living room? A familiar voice interrupted her thought process. Louise turned her head and saw Austin sitting behind the wheel of the very car that had doused her the day before. He was smiling with his mouth full of white teeth like a Hollywood actor. While Louise was gathering her thoughts, the young man repeated his question. "How far are you going? I can give you a ride." "No, thank you," she replied. "I'm almost there." "Well, as you wish," Austin said with a shrug of his shoulders and drove off sharply. One day, Louise came in when Donna was no longer home. After cleaning up, the girl was about to leave, but Austin stopped her. "Are you leaving already?" he asked. "I was going to ask you to clean my room." Louise took a vacuum cleaner, a rag, a bucket of water, and went up to the second floor. All the time she was skillfully operating the vacuum cleaner, Austin stood in the doorway and watched the cleaning. At one point, Louise felt out of place. "Is something wrong?" she asked. No, it's great. I love watching other people work. Have you tried getting a job?" Austin didn't like Louise's question. He wrinkled his nose and concluded, "You're impertinent," and then added, clearly wanting to put her in her place. "But what can you take from a housekeeper? You've hardly been taught manners." "I see you didn't go to etiquette school either," Louise suggested in the same tone. "If you'll allow me, I'll take over." "Of course, the money has to be paid," Austin said and left the room. Having finished cleaning, Louise went downstairs. Austin was lying on the sofa in the living room. When he saw the housekeeper, he stood up and looked at her from head to toe and asked, "Is it over already? So soon? Check it out. If there's anything wrong, I'll fix it." With a hum, the young man went upstairs. After a minute, he looked out of his room and said, "That'll do for the first time." "Thank you, and that's it," Louisa replied and headed for the exit. "Why did your mother take you?" he said to her. "You're always in a hurry. What if I need a housekeeper tonight?" "Donna is quite satisfied with my candidacy." The girl was not confused. "You should hire someone else. You're too talkative," the young man said irritably. "This is no way for a servant to behave. And you find yourself a deaf mute. She will not hear your rudeness and will not cross you," Louisa replied and disappeared behind the door. Austin shook his head unhappily and went back to his room. He wasn't used to being spoken to like this. Usually girls looked him in the mouth, trying to please the enviable beau. But now some housekeeper had taken the liberty of speaking to him disrespectfully. It really hurt the young man. And at the same time, Austin was impressed by Louise's boldness and sharp wit. The next day, the young master got up early. Louise caught him in the kitchen as he rummaged in the refrigerator. Donna was finishing her coffee and giving her son advice on what to eat for breakfast. "Maybe our housekeeper could make me something," Austin suggested, looking at Louisa. The girl looked at him, then at her hostess. Catching her questioning look, Donna said, "Louisa, if it's not too much trouble for you, feed my hungry son. At the end of the month, I'll recalculate your paycheck." The housekeeper quickly threw on an apron and started preparing breakfast. Meanwhile, the housekeeper said goodbye to the household and left for work. While Austin devoured Ovid's cheesecakes, she began to clean up. Wiping the dust in the office, the girl felt a stare. Turning around, she saw Austin standing on the doorstep, watching her every move. "Did you need something?" she asked. "I wanted to thank you for the cheesecakes," he said. "I'm glad you liked them." The girl wanted to continue her work, but she noticed that Austin was not leaving. "Anything else?" she asked. "You're feeding me breakfast," the young man replied. "Let me take you to lunch." "Thanks, but I eat lunch at the Institute in the cafeteria." "I see. Where do you get the money for restaurants?" "But don't worry. If I invite you, I pay." "You're an amazing man," she said, apparently wanting to thank you. "You managed to offend. I do not need your restaurants. I trust the canteen at the Institute more." "Come on, don't pout." Austin tried to reconcile. "I don't understand your stubbornness either. You're invited to a restaurant, and you refuse." "Aren't you used to rejection?" Louise suggested. "Usually girls jump to the ceiling when I ask them to spend time with me," Austin admitted. "I'd had enough of your company here," she retorted, "and your ceilings are high. I can't jump, so I'm not going to try." "Okay, we don't have time for lunch, so why don't we have dinner tonight? If you don't want to go to a restaurant, let's go to a cafe or a canteen," he said and grinned. "Maybe I'll like it there too." I don't think so, Louisa replied. Dine with your sportswoman where you're used to. I'll make do with homemade cutlets. Well, as you like, said Austin, not hiding his displeasure. But if you change your mind, let me know. My offer still stands. Are you in a hurry again? Austin asked when Louise was about to leave. Should my room be cleaned? You were asleep. I didn't want to wake you, she replied. I have to go to the institute. If you can't wait until tomorrow to clean, I can come back after school. Do me a favor. After class, Louisa went to work. Donna wasn't home yet, but Austin welcomed her with open arms. I thought you weren't coming. Ignoring her young master's nagging, Louise changed into her work clothes and headed upstairs. What was her surprise when she entered Austin's room? Orderly and clean, everything was in its proper place. The surprised housekeeper turned to the young man who had followed her and asked, Did you clean it yourself? Do you think I can't even tidy my own room? He answered her question with a question. I didn't say that, Louise remarked. Then why did you have to invite me? It's a good thing the institute is within walking distance of your house. Otherwise, you wouldn't be lured to dinner, Austin explained. What dinner? She asked, not hiding her annoyance. I have to go to kindergarten. My child is waiting for me, and I'm going to have dinner here. While Austin was digesting what the housekeeper had said, Louise went downstairs, changed her clothes, and headed out. She was stopped at the door by the young master. So you have a child? And you're breaking like a girl, he said and grabbed her arm and pulled her to him. Louise didn't have time to realize what was happening when Austin pressed her against the wall and started kissing her. The girl tried to resist, but the forces were unequal. With one hand, the guy held her arms, and the other was already getting under her skirt. Let me go, Louise demanded. I'll tell Dawn everything. And I'll tell her that you attacked me, Austin replied with a sneer in his voice. Who is she going to believe? Her son or some cleaning lady? Let me go, she said, trying to get away. Don't you have enough groupies? What do you need me for? The girl's fierce resistance made the young man even more eager. His kisses became more and more demanding, and his hands roamed all over her body. In one motion, Austin pulled Louise down onto the couch and began to undo the buttons of her blouse. There are a lot of admirers, but they get boring, he admitted in a burst of passion. They're just a whistle away. And you're not like that. Then let me go, Louisa begged. I don't want to be like this. Austin had no time to say anything when his mother's voice came from behind him. What's going on here? She asked menacingly. Austin jumped up from the sofa like a scalded man and said, smoothing his hair and clothes with his hands. I didn't hear you come in. I noticed, Donna parried. So what's going on here? Louise rose to follow Austin. Burning with shame, she hid her eyes and tried to tidy her clothes. Excuse me, Donna, the housekeeper said in a low voice. She wanted to explain the situation, but Austin interrupted her. Mom, we're adults to answer to you, he said. It seemed to me that Louise did not enjoy your caresses. You imagined it, replied the young man. No, I didn't. Louisa interrupted him. I'm sorry, Donna, but I'm not going to work in your house anymore. I took a job as a housekeeper. It's not my job to please your son. You have nothing to apologize to me for, said the landlady. I'm the one who needs to apologize to you. Go home. We'll talk tomorrow. Louise grabbed her bag and quickly ran out of the house. She wanted to forget this nightmare as quickly as possible, but the scent of Austin's expensive cologne followed her all the way home. It wasn't until she took a shower that she was able to get rid of the intrusive scent. The next morning, Donna called Louise herself and asked her to come to her house. Austin wouldn't be there, she warned, but we need to talk. Half an hour later, Louise was already at Donna's house. Don't be angry with my son, she asked. He thinks money can buy everything and everyone. It's probably my fault. Like any loving mother, I always wanted the best for him, so I worked 20 hours a day. Austin was left to his own devices. When he was little, he had a nanny, but when he grew up and became independent, that's when the problem started. As is often the case when parents are very busy, the teenager got involved with a bad company, fell in love with the girl who at that time was already on the record in the police. The boy, who for 7 years of schooling had shown great promise, seemed to be replaced. He became rude, left home, skipped lessons at school. Persuasion and pleas didn't work. In order to pull him out of this company, I had to change my place of residence and the school my son attended. Austin was very worried about parting with this girl, blamed me for all the deadly sins. For a few years, our relationship was very strained, but gradually my son got his head on straight. He graduated from school with a silver medal and entered the institute. Everything seemed to be back to normal, but the spoiled relationship with my son never fully recovered. In his eyes, I remained forever busy mom, who first deprived him of his father, and then his favorite girl. But it's been so long. Louise couldn't contain her emotions. Your Austin is a grown man. He's only grown up, Donna replied, but in his heart, he's still a hurt little child who takes revenge for his wrongs whenever he gets the chance. But you said he was on an internship, Louise recalled. Yes, Austin had graduated with honors and had been offered a position with a well-known company, but he had to do an internship first. I hoped that being away from me would change him, and I thought it would, but yesterday I caught you. It wasn't my fault, Louise said. I was about to leave, but I believe you. The landlady interrupted her. You don't have to justify yourself to me. I thought my son liked you, and I hoped that you and he could have a relationship. But I guess I was wrong again. I don't think I'm the right girl for him, Louise said. We have different attitudes to life and people. Maybe, agreed Donna, but I still want to ask you not to leave my house. I've grown attached to you, and it's hard to find decent, honest people like you these days. After a short pause, Louise shook her head and said, No, Donna, I'm sorry, but I don't want to see your son again. I thought so, the woman admitted, and taking an envelope with a few bills from her dresser drawer, handed it to the housekeeper. This is your paycheck. Thank you for your work, but you should think about it. Maybe you'll change your mind. A few days passed after Louise was fired from Donna's house. During the time she'd been working, she'd been able to put aside some money, which now came in handy. The allowance from the state was also a good help. Not to say that the sisters did not need anything, but they were not poor either. Louise's main concern was that the guardianship authorities would not come to check on them. Louise, will they take me back to the orphanage? Marta asked her sister every now and then. No, they won't, Louisa answered. I'll find another job soon. But in a pinch, I'll go to Donna. She promised to help. It's a shame you don't work for Aunt Donna anymore. I liked her, Martha confided to her sister on the walk. I liked her too, agreed Louise. But unfortunately, we can't always do what we want to do. Why don't we visit her? Martha suggested it. She won't kick us out, will she? She won't, confirmed her big sister. But let's do it some other time. Why some other time? Suddenly, a man's voice came from behind the sisters sitting on the bench. My man will be glad to see you. The girls turned around. Austin was standing behind them with a bouquet in his hands. Hearing the familiar voice, Louise flinched. All these days, she had been trying to forget about the incident, and she certainly hadn't expected to see him in the yard of her own house. Who are you? Martha inquired. The young man walked around the bench and squatted down in front of the girl, extended his hand to her and introduced himself. Uncle Austin, what's your name? Martha, she answered cheerfully and pointing to the flowers asked, And who are these for? Your mom, the man said and handed the bouquet to Louise. My mom is dead, and Louise is my sister, the girl explained. Martha's words confused Austin. I'm sorry. He turned to Martha. I didn't know. What are you doing here? Louise asked, making it clear that she was not happy to see him. I came to apologize for my behavior. I don't know what came over me. Take these flowers as a token of reconciliation. I forgive you, but I won't take the flowers, Louisa replied and went home. Louisa, I was going to ask you to come back to work. No, I promise to behave. I'm not sure you know anything about decorum. Everybody can make mistakes, Austin said in his defense, but you have to be able to forgive. I said I forgave you, the girl reminded him, but I'm not going to work for you anymore. What can I do to make you change your mind? Why such persistence? I'm sure there will be a lot of people willing to take my place. By the way, maybe they'll be more cooperative. Austin, who was not accustomed to long persuasion, could hardly contain his irritation. I wouldn't have insisted if it hadn't been for my mother, he admitted. She's been giving me a hard time. How did you win her over? Louise is the best. Martha stood up for her sister. The young man looked at the girl and then back at the former housekeeper. Think it over, he said. We won't hurt your wages. Putting the bouquet on the bench, Austin walked quickly to the car. In a minute, he was already behind the house. Martha looked at him and said, "What a nasty uncle. Did you leave Aunt Donna because of him?" "Yes," she admitted. "I didn't like him at first either." "It's a shame you don't work there anymore," Martha said on the way home. The sisters never returned to the subject again, but it didn't take Austin long. A couple of days later, he met Louise after school. "Are you following me?" she asked irritably. "Finally, you stopped yelling at me," the young man remarked. "I think we're even closer now." "Why did you come here?" Louise repeated the question. "I wanted to see if you had changed your mind." "No." "That's a pity. Mammy's having a hard time." Austin paused, as if waiting for a clarifying question, but when he didn't, he continued, "I was hoping your return would get her back on her feet quickly." "What does that mean?" Louise didn't understand. "Didn't I say?" Mom stumbled on the porch and fell and broke her leg. Now she's sitting at home, telling me every minute how bad I am. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" The girl got worried. "Are you driving?" "We're in the car," Austin replied with a smirk. "Will you even get in my car?" "If you don't mind," Louise said and followed him. Austin turned the key in the ignition and pressed the gas pedal. The car squealed and sped forward like a rocket. Louise's breath caught in her throat. "Don't be afraid. I'll take you home like an airplane," the driver promised. "The main thing is not to take off early," she replied, holding tightly to the handle. "And you with humor," noted the young man and grinned. Soon the car pulled up outside Donna's house. Austin got out of the car and called out to his mother, but no one answered. Stepping over the threshold of the house, he shouted, "My man, look who I brought you." Louise appeared at the door. She immediately saw the owner sitting on the sofa in the living room with a plastered leg. Donna was overjoyed to see her guest. "What a surprise," she exclaimed. "Unexpected, but very pleasant. Have you changed your mind and decided to come back?" "Come in." "Well, why are you standing on the doorstep like a stranger?" Donna was genuinely happy to see Louisa. She didn't know where to sit her or what to serve her. "Well, you two talk," Austin said, going upstairs. "When you go home," he said to Louise, "call me. I'll drive you." "Thank you," she replied, "but I know the way. I'll try myself." "As you wish." The landlady and the former housekeeper sat over a cup of tea and talked like good old friends. Donna was interested in the girl's studies, her plans for the future, asked about her younger sister, and did not fail to complain about the accident that had happened to her 2 days ago. But most of the time the woman talked about her son. "I think Austin has begun to grow up," she admitted. "He is changing in front of my eyes. He stopped being rude, became more restrained and patient, helps me around the house. And most importantly, he went to work. It's about time he got his head on straight." "Yes," Donna agreed, "but I think you can take credit for that." "Me?" Louise was surprised. "You're exaggerating. I haven't worked for you for half a month. It was after you left that I started to notice a change in my son. Maybe he's fallen in love with you." "Don, don't make this up. I'm just a servant for your son, a cleaning lady. Men like him don't even look at men like me. And frankly, I'm not crazy about Austin." "You should look at him though," Mom said. "He's not bad at heart. Austin was great when he was a kid. If it hadn't been for his exposure to bad company." "I understand," Louise interrupted her. "Like a loving mother, you idealize your child. But Austin's grown up now, and he has to take responsibility for his actions." "You're right, Louise. You're absolutely right. But everyone can make mistakes. Give him a chance. I see the way he looks at you. You're not like the rest of his girlfriends, mercantile, glossy, capricious dolls who are used to having fun and doing nothing. You're real. You're just like me when I was young. That's probably why I'm so attached to you." "I am flattered to hear you say that," Louisa replied. "But don't try to set me up with your son. I am not sure that we both need it." The conversation was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Austin. Glancing at the clock on the wall, he asked the guest, "Aren't you going to be late for kindergarten?" Louise jumped up like a scalded woman. "Oh, I've forgotten all about the time," she confessed. "Donna, get well. I'll visit you again, with your permission. Or maybe you can come back to us at least for a while," the landlady asked, "until I get better." Louise was taken by surprise by her landlady's request. She didn't want to see Austin every day, but she couldn't say no to someone in need. "Okay, I'll go to work tomorrow, she promised and headed for the exit. Can I give you a ride after all? Austin asked. I'm going your way. I won't bother you, he promised and grinned. Come on, Louise. Donna joined in. You'll have a long ride on public transportation, and the daycare center will be closed by then. All right, she said, and followed Austin. Almost the whole way, the young people drove in silence. Stopping near the garden, Austin suddenly asked, I do not understand why you have taken on all this trouble. You yourself are not yet firmly on your feet, and then there is your sister. Where am I supposed to put her? Louise asked. Well, there are boarding schools, orphanages. He began to enumerate. I have no doubt that if you were in my place, you would have done the same thing. I love my sister. But you probably don't understand that. She was about to get out of the car, but Austin stopped her. Why are you making a monster of me? I thought I already apologized for my behavior. I just wanted to say that it's hard to carry a baby on your own, especially in your situation. Yes, Louise agreed. It's a difficult position to be in. But Martha's my sister, and I'm the only one she's got. She has no one else to rely on. I will never abandon or betray her. That is commendable, said Austin with his usual grin. You decided to put your youth on her, and then she'll grow up and won't thank you for it. You shouldn't judge people by themselves. Not everyone grows up ungrateful, Louise retorted. I don't do it for thanks. Perhaps I need it more than she does. But you don't understand that. Louise got out of the car and headed for the kindergarten. Austin stared after her until she disappeared around the corner. The housekeeper's words had hurt his ego. He hated to hear that he was an ungrateful, insensitive man. But she was right about something. Pressing the gas pedal, he drove off briskly and quickly disappeared. All the way he pondered Louise's words and analyzed his life. So far, everything had suited him. Austin considered himself a reasonably intelligent, educated, well-bred man. He was in demand with the opposite sex and authority among friends. He was used to people looking at his mouth and fawning over him. And here's some girl who knew nothing about his life, constantly wiping his nose. On the one hand, he found himself thinking that he liked Louise. Unlike the others, she did not ingratiate herself with him. On the contrary, she openly expressed her opinion. But at the same time, that was what annoyed him about her. Sometimes Austin felt that his mother's housekeeper thought too much of herself. The man, engrossed in his thoughts, did not notice that he had reached the house. Once inside, he saw that his mother was still sitting in the same place. At some point, the man felt his heart squeeze. Mom, do you need help? He asked. Donna flinched in surprise. No, she said, and then suddenly added, this is the first time you've called me Mom in a long time. I've been mom and mother to you for a long time. Did something happen? No, Austin answered. I just suddenly realized that I have no one else but you. Tears glistened in the woman's eyes. Austin, pretending not to notice, went quickly upstairs and hid in his room. The next day, Louise arrived at Donna's house as promised. Austin wasn't home, but his mother wouldn't stop talking about him. You know, Austin's changed a lot since he met you. I think you're having a very positive effect on him, she shared with the housekeeper. Don't exaggerate, Donna, the girl asked. I don't take any credit for it. It's just that people change. Your son must have realized that you are the closest and dearest person to him. Having finished cleaning, Louisa said goodbye to the landlady and went to the institute. After class, she got an unexpected surprise. Austin met her on the way to the bus stop. He was holding a small but beautiful bouquet. Hi, these are for you, he said and handed them to Louise. At times like this, Louise felt awkward. She still didn't trust Austin. It seemed to her that a man could not have changed so dramatically in such a short time. It's unnecessary, she said, looking at the flowers. Why did you come here? First of all, the flowers are a thank you for my mother. Thank you for helping her. Second, stop yelling at me. I'm only 5 years older than you. You don't have to thank me for something I do with heart and pleasure, especially not for free. Give those flowers to Donna. You again? Austin looked at the girl reproachfully. I will stop howling if you promise not to come to my institute with flowers anymore, she said. I don't want my classmates to start gossiping about me. What's wrong with a girl's boyfriend coming to pick her up? He asked. You're not my boyfriend, Louise reminded him. All right, agreed the young man. I promise not to compromise you again. Just take this bouquet. Louise sighed and took the flowers. "I can give you a ride to the garden," Austin offered. "It's not worth it. I'd rather take the bus. It's safer that way." Austin grinned his trademark smile and replied, "I promise to drive slowly and deliver it safely on time." "Okay," Louise gave in, one last time. The young man headed towards Austin's automobile. To the girl's surprise, he was as gallant and attentive as ever. Ahead of her by a few steps, the man opened the door in front of the passenger and kindly offered her his hand. It did not go unnoticed by Louise that this time Austin drove the car slowly and carefully. At some point, it seemed to her that there was a completely different person beside her. Not so long ago, the arrogant snob had magically transformed himself into a well-mannered, intelligent man, pleasant in every way. On the one hand, Louise liked this change in him. On the other hand, it frightened her, something fake about it. "What are you thinking about?" Austin asked, noticing the passenger's absent gaze out the window. "About how a man can change in a few days," replied Louise. "Are you referring to me?" he clarified. "Yes, I don't believe in such metamorphoses," she admitted. "You're obviously up to something. I just don't know what it is." "You're wrong," the young man tried to persuade her. "It was my behavior before that was fake. I'm used to acting like that," he admitted. "Women like confident, persistent, goal-oriented men." "Confident but not cocky," Louise corrected him. "Persistent but not insolent, determined but not pushy." "So you think I'm a pushy, self-assured, impudent man?" Austin concluded. "Yes." Louise's answer discouraged him. He was still unaccustomed to her honesty and directness, and at the same time, it turned him on. No woman had so far stirred his mind as Louise had. Her behavior aroused mixed feelings in him. On the one hand, he was magnetically drawn to her. On the other, he wanted to punish her for her unapproachability and intransigence. "Here we are," Austin announced, stopping outside the nursery. "I'll wait for you here." "No need. It's just a short walk from here to our house. We'll walk with Martha." "I don't mean to be intrusive," the man said, mindful of the conversation. "But could I keep you company?" Louise shrugged her shoulders and headed toward the kindergarten. Her sister ran out to meet her. Noticing Austin behind her, she asked in her ear, "What's he doing here?" "We met by chance," Louise explained in a whisper, "and he offered me a ride." "Did he also give you flowers by chance?" she asked in a whisper, and then she said, "I don't like him anyway, even with flowers." After walking the sisters to the entrance, Austin suddenly suggested, "Maybe on the weekend we can walk in the park or go to the zoo together." "No," Martha replied firmly. "We had other plans." Louise was used to her younger sister's development, and Austin was discouraged by the little girl's answer. But quickly gathering his thoughts, he asked, "Do you have dolls?" "Lots," Martha replied. "Did they have their own dollhouse?" After a short pause, the girl said, "No. They live in my and Louise's house." "But everyone should have their own house," Austin insisted. "Would you like us to buy your dolls a house too?" The pause dragged on. Martha could feel the thought process going on in her head. Like any girl, she wanted a dollhouse, but she still didn't trust Austin. Realizing the reason for the silence, the man turned to Louise. "Do you mind if I give your sister a gift as a sign of reconciliation? I'm not sure it's right or necessary. Let's skip the expensive gifts." "I'm about to get my first paycheck," the man said. "I'd like to spend it on something nice." Louise wanted to reply, but Austin beat her to it, adding, "I promise I won't neglect my mom." But that was unnecessary, she insisted. "Thank you for the ride and for seeing her off," she said, and taking her sister's hand in hers, she disappeared down the driveway. On the morning of the day off, the girls were in no hurry. They had no special plans, so they lay in their beds and talked. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Jumping up like a scalded woman, Louise ran to the bathroom, shouting on the way. "Who?" "It's me, Austin," came a voice from outside the door. "Wait," commanded the girl and disappeared into the bathroom. Martha had made her bed and her sister's, and after glancing around the room and making sure everything was in order, she opened the door. The man was holding a huge box. As he crossed the threshold, he set it on the floor and said to Martha, "This is for you. Unpack it." The girl looked from the giver to the gift with disbelief. She guessed what was in the box, but did not dare to open it without her sister's permission. "Don't be shy," Austin urged her. "I promised you a doll's house, didn't I? Take it. I'm not going to carry this weight back, am I?" Martha's last argument seemed reasonable, and she began to remove the wrapping. After a hasty shower, Louise came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel. She hadn't expected to see Austin here, so she froze in surprise for a few seconds and then disappeared out the door again. That was enough time for the man to get a glimpse of the housekeeper's chiseled figure. Her smooth legs, graceful arms, straight posture, slim waist, and narrow shoulders were as if chiseled by a talented craftsman. In such a way, Louise stirred Austin's imagination even more. In his mind, he was already imagining her in his arms. He had never wanted a woman so badly in his life. A moment later, Louise came out in the robe she had to get out of the laundry basket. But even in her crumpled housecoat, she looked very attractive and desirable. "I told you not to open the door to strangers," she reproached her sister. "But he's not a stranger," Martha replied, taking the doll's house out of its wrapping. "What the hell is this?" her older sister asked sternly, looking at the toy. "Now my dolls will have their own house," the girl said happily. "It's too expensive," Louisa said. "We can't accept it." Martha, engrossed in the toy, did not even react to her sister's words. "But I'm not going to take it back to the store," Austin replied. "They won't take it back without its wrapping." "Look how happy your sister is. Can't you take it away from her?" "Then I'll give you the money from my paycheck," Louisa suggested. "I will not take money from you," replied the young man. "But if you have extra, you can take me to the movies." "All right," she agreed. "But first, we need breakfast." While Louise made pancakes, Austin helped Martha set up the dollhouse. From the outside, they all looked like a close-knit family. Despite her distrust of the hostess's son, Louise watched her sister and the guest play with amusement. For a moment, she thought that he was indeed a kind and decent man. And the incident of molestation in the drawing room was only a misunderstanding, which Austin had long since repented of. "The pancakes are wonderful," praised the hostess. "You haven't tasted Louise's cakes yet," Martha added with pride in her voice. "Martha, you have to address adults as you," her sister corrected her. "Uncle Austin told me to call him you," she said. Louise looked questioningly at the guest. Austin, as if nothing had happened, said, "Why the ceremony? I think it's easier to communicate this way." After breakfast, Austin, Louise, and Martha went to the biggest shopping and entertainment center in the city. There was everything there: a movie theater, a cafe, a restaurant, a playground. "Yes, I'm sorry," Austin replied, getting up from his seat. "Time flies with you. Why don't we all go out again sometime?" "Maybe." Austin stood on the doorstep and looked at Louise. He wanted to kiss her desperately, but he was afraid of ruining the relationship he had just established. Shuffling from foot to foot like a schoolboy, he decided to ask, "Can I kiss you?" Instantly, the girl's cheeks flushed. She wanted to say no, but her tongue wouldn't listen to her. A second pause, and Louise felt Austin's moist lips on hers. Without wanting to, the girl reached for him. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Austin put his arms around her waist and pulled her to him. This kiss, filled with tenderness and affection, was nothing like that first kiss. Louise felt herself starting to lose control of herself and the situation. But suddenly, Austin pulled her away from him just as gently and said, "See you soon." Donna was on the mend quickly. Louise came to her house every day and cleaned her house. She also had to cook meals now. It was good that the vacations had started and the housekeeper had a lot of free time. Martha became a frequent visitor to Donna's house, who was happy to spend time with her while Louise did her chores. Austin rushed home every day after work to spend time with Louise. Donna noticed her son's rapprochement with the housekeeper and did not hide her joy about it. "I think Austin has seriously fallen in love with you," she once shared with Louise. "It's like he's been replaced. It's true what they say, love works wonders." Louise only smiled at these words and lowered her eyes in embarrassment. She too saw this change, which made her look at the man with different eyes. She felt that she was falling more and more in love with him every day. Alone with Austin, her heart was racing as if it was trying to jump out. Only a little worm in her head kept her mind on her own. It was like it was drilling at the same place, not allowing her to relax and forget. Martha, in spite of her young age, was thinking naturally. Uncle Austin may be a good man, but he's not for you, she told her sister privately. You're different. You seem to like him, don't you? Louise asked. Yes, she confirmed, but he's not real, he's too perfect. When Donna's cast was removed, she was offered to go to a local sanatorium for rehabilitation. Without much thought, the woman agreed, taking a promise from Louisa that she would take care of the house during her absence. Maybe Marta could come with me, the landlady suggested it. It would be a nice change of scenery for the girl, and I would be bored. Martha gladly agreed to Aunt Donna's suggestion, and 2 days later they left for the sanatorium together. That same evening, Austin arranged a romantic candlelight dinner for Louise. Of course, the dinner was prepared by Louise, but while she was busy in the kitchen, he set the table in the living room, dimmed the lights, lit candles, and put on some nice music. What a surprise. The girl was surprised. Like in the best houses of Paris. Why Paris? We're not the best either, I noticed. Demonstratively pushing back his chair, the young man invited Louise to the table. Playing along with him, the girl, lifting her skirt slightly, walked solemnly to the chair and sat down. Austin unsealed a bottle of red wine and filled the glasses. I propose a toast to us, he said. Taking a sip, Louise put the glass back, but Austin made the toast again and again. Even a dense dinner did not relieve the girl, who was not used to alcoholic drinks, from a slight dizziness. Maybe we should dance, Austin suggested, and taking Louise by the hand, led her to the center of the living room. To the quiet, peaceful sounds of music, the young people slowly twirled in a dance. Despite her outward calmness, Louise's insides were trembling. Every touch of Austin stirred her. Her heart periodically tried to jump out of her chest. The wine and the ever-present scent of Austin's cologne were intoxicating. At some point, Louise's legs felt cotton and her eyelids felt heavy. She rested her head on her beau's shoulder and felt his muscles tense. At the same moment, he picked her up in his arms and carried her to his room. "What are you doing?" Louise asked. "Don't say anything," Austin asked in a whisper. Going up to the room, he put her on the bed and laid down next to her. Feeling the girl's inner resistance, he kept her in his arms. "I want you to be mine," he whispered and kissed her. This time his kiss was longer and more demanding than all the previous ones. Louise gasped with desire. That little worm that had been keeping her down until now had disappeared without a trace. She could no longer think or analyze what was happening. She just wanted to enjoy the moment. Louise gave free rein to her feelings and desires. The girl wrapped her 2 arms around the man's neck and whispered, "Yes." She didn't notice when Austin took off her clothes. In those rare moments of consciousness, Louise only noticed that he was gentle with her, then, like a wild animal, rushed at his prey. The pain and fear faded into the background as Austin whispered sweet words in her ear. Never before had she experienced such a flurry of feelings all at once. She felt like she was going to burst, but she didn't. Unable to contain herself any longer, she moaned. From time to time, her moans turned to screams and then back to silence. Soon, her inner trembling spilled outward. Louise was shaking as if from the cold. Her whole body was whimpering. It was not obeying her. Suddenly, Austin's rapid, rhythmic movements became slower until finally they stopped altogether. With a deep exhalation, the man collapsed beside her. Silence hung in the room. Louise's consciousness suddenly cleared. She slowly pulled the blanket over her, shamefully covering herself. Austin lay with his eyes closed and said nothing. Finally, after a few minutes, he got up and headed for the bathroom. Louise didn't know what she should do. On the one hand, she realized that nothing supernatural had happened between them. On the other hand, she was ashamed of her weakness. While she pondered, Austin showered and returned to her, wrapping his torso in a towel. Seeing the girl's embarrassment, he lay down next to her and asked, "How are you feeling?" "Fine," she replied faintly. "You really didn't have anyone before me," Austin said, as if still in doubt. "I thought there were no more of them left nowadays." Louise said nothing, but pulled the blanket tighter around her. "I'm going to get some water," Austin said. "Would you like some?" The girl nodded and, after waiting for him to leave the room, headed for the bathroom. Standing under the shower, she could still feel Austin's touches and kisses on her body. The recent events flashed through her mind, and his voice echoed in her ears. The warm water gradually brought Louise to her senses. Wrapping a large terry towel around herself, she stepped out of the bathroom. Austin was sprawled out on the bed on top of the blanket, looking at her intently. He had his trademark smirk on his face, which made her uncomfortable. But in the next second, Austin smiled and, patting the vacant spot on the bed next to him, said affectionately, "Come to my place, pretty girl." Louise crouched down next to him on the bed uncomplainingly. Austin put his arm around her shoulders and drew her to him and kissed her. "You're hot," he said jokingly. "I didn't expect you to be so passionate. Would you mind doing it again sometime?" Donna and Martha had been at the sanitarium for 2 weeks. All that time, she had been calling her son and the housekeeper periodically to tell them what she was doing and to ask about news from home. Austin went to work every day, and Louise returned to her studies after a short rest. She was still doing chores, but now she often stayed overnight at Donna's house. Ever since Louise had become close to Austin, she had missed him. He was late from work for a good reason, or he had a meeting with friends, or he had to visit a sick boss. Soon Donna and Martha returned home. The girl had a lot of impressions. She told her sister about the wonderful time she had spent with Aunt Donna at the sanatorium. Louise was happy for her, but she couldn't hide her worries about the changes in her life from her hostess. "Tell me what's going on with you and Austin," the woman asked when she was alone with the housekeeper. "Everything is fine," Louise replied, embarrassed by her question. "You don't have to lie to me," Donna asked. "I was happy to learn that you had started a relationship with my son, but I don't see joy in your eyes." "I'm glad," Louise said, "but I think Austin's been spending less time with me. I think he's gotten colder." "Don't make it up," Donna reassured her. "It's just that men can't devote themselves to a woman completely. It's us women who dissolve into them when we fall in love." Louise continued to run the household at Austin's mother's house, but after her return, she no longer stayed overnight. Austin didn't insist. After seeing Louise home, he would go about his business and often return well past midnight. Donna did not like her son's late nights out, but she did not give him away, hoping that he would come to his senses and change. As time passed, however, nothing much changed. The woman noticed how sad her housekeeper was. She felt sorry for her, so she decided to intervene. "Austin, we need to talk," she said sternly one day to her son, who was going to another meeting with his friends. "Mother, not now," he asked her. The word mother cut Donna's hearing. Austin had been calling her mom lately, and she was insanely pleased with it. What had happened today? Why mom again? "Did something happen to you?" she asked. "Trouble at work?" "No, everything's fine there. I'm still getting a tiny salary," the son replied in a disgruntled tone. "I've offered you many times to go into business with me," the woman reminded him. "I don't want my mother to be my boss," Austin said. "When you're ready to retire, then call me." "What's the matter with Louise?" she asked me directly. "What do you mean?" Austin pretended not to understand. "Don't pretend. Louise is a good girl. She'll make a fine wife. You're lucky she paid attention to you." "What? She took notice of me," he interjected dismissively. "She should be thanking the universe that a man like me came her way." At that time, the housekeeper had finished cleaning and was on her way to the living room to say goodbye to the owners. The conversation between mother and son made her stop outside the door. Louise had never allowed herself to eavesdrop on other people's conversations before, but this one concerned her directly, so she put her ear to the keyhole for a better hearing and froze. "I'm sure she's grateful," her mother parried. "You've been dating for months now. When are you going to propose to her?" "What are you talking about, Mom?" I asked a normal question. When young people date, they make plans for the future. "Are you thinking of marrying Louise?" "No, of course not." Austin grinned. "Who am I? And who is she? Do you think I'm going to marry some housekeeper?" "She's only a housekeeper because of circumstances," the landlady said. "But you know she's about to get her high school diploma, right?" "So what?" Austin didn't give up. "What difference does it make? She's a simpleton. I'm attracted to more interesting girls with big boobs and empty heads." Donna got angry. "I wish she was. There's no shame in going out with them." "Austin, I had a better opinion of you," she admitted. "I thought you were a smart, serious, forward-thinking man, and you still can't get over it." "Mother, don't lecture me," he asked. I won't let you hurt Louise. The girl has been through enough in this life. I'm not going to hurt her, the man replied. Isn't that how it works? You meet and then you run away. Seeing that her son could not be persuaded, Donna bitterly waved her hand and left the living room. Frustrated, she headed for the stairs, not even noticing the housekeeper standing outside the door. Louise didn't move. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. She realized that Austin had deceived her. When she returned home, she cried into her pillow all night. The next morning, she woke up with a firm decision to sever all relations with the family in whose house she had worked for many months. Arriving at Donna's house, Louise made her way to the landlady's house. Austin had already left for work. Trying to hide the traces of her worries from the housekeeper, the landlady asked with a smile, "How are you, Louise? How's Martha?" Not wanting to beat around the bush, the girl said directly, "Donna, I heard you talking to your son yesterday. You do realize that under these circumstances I can't continue to work in your house. Maybe things will change," she said with hope in her voice. "Maybe Austin would come to his senses. You can't force a favor," Louise said firmly, "and I don't like to talk to him and pretend that nothing has happened." "Yes, I understand," agreed the landlady. "You're probably right. I'm sorry about what happened." "It wasn't your fault," Louise replied. "You don't have to apologize to me for your son. He is a grown man and he can take responsibility for his own actions." Louise hadn't worked at Donna's house for several days. She was completely absorbed in her studies to get Austin out of her mind. Martha realized that something was going on with her sister, but she didn't ask her questions unless she got an answer. Donna, feeling guilty, didn't abandon the girls. She often came to visit them with gifts. The women tried not to bring up the subject of Austin, pretending that he did not exist. When Donna came to visit her sisters again, she said, "Louise, I have an offer for you that you can't refuse." Intrigued, smiled the girl. "I want to take you into my business," she informed me. "In a few months, you'll get your diploma and you'll be looking for a job. I suggest you skip the job search and come to me for an internship right now." "But I probably won't be able to do that," Louise said nervously. "I don't understand anything about your business." "What am I for?" Donna asked cheerfully. "I'll teach you everything. If you want to leave and work in your specialty, I won't hold you back. And if you like it, I promise you career advancement and a good salary." "Say yes, Louise." Martha jumped up and down. After a moment's thought, Louise smiled and nodded in agreement. "I'll do my best," she promised. "Thank you." A few months flew by. All this time, Louise was writing her thesis and interning at Donna's company. The former owner, now director, was pleased with the new employee. Louise was a quick learner. She quickly joined the team and earned the respect of her colleagues. Now she devoted all her free time to herself and her little sister. Louise, knowing about her natural beauty, nevertheless, following the advice of her boss, began to visit beauty salons, watch her appearance, updated her closet, and enrolled in the gym. For a diamond to become a diamond, it needs a professional cut, Donna liked to say. And Louise had learned that. Young men looked at her and tried to ask her out every now and then. But Louise didn't have affairs at work. The memories of her failed relationship with Austin were still fresh in her mind. The girl was not ready to jump into the maelstrom again. One day, the director of the company came to work in a bad mood. Never before had she allowed herself to raise her voice at her subordinates, and on this day her shouting was heard from the very morning. Employees did not leave their workplaces, afraid to be seen by her. After gathering her courage, Louisa entered the principal's office and saw that the woman who had just raged was standing at the window, wiping tears from her face. "Donna, is something wrong?" Louisa ran up to her and asked, "Can I help you?" The principal didn't react to her words for a while, but then she turned, looked at the girl carefully, and answered, "Austin is going to get married." The news hit Louise like a blow to the head. All this time she had been trying in vain to forget Austin. She couldn't say that she still loved him, but his desire to marry someone else had hurt her feelings. Louise swallowed the lump in her throat and said as calmly as she could, "It had to happen sometime. Maybe Austin will settle down now. I hoped until the last day that he'd come to his senses and come back to you," Donna admitted. "I am flattered by your words," Louisa replied, "but I don't think I could forgive him, so let him be happy with his girlfriend." The headmistress hugged the girl and smiled with sadness in her eyes. What a pity my son never realized what goal he had lost. From now on, Louisa spent a lot of time in the principal's office. Donna wanted to share her worries about the upcoming celebration with someone, and she found no better listener than Louise. The last thing she wanted to know was the details of the preparations for Austin's marriage, but she didn't dare to tell his mother, so she listened to her stories for hours. It was clear from Donna's remarks that she wasn't happy with her daughter-in-law. A narcissistic painted doll, she said of her, born with a golden spoon in her mouth and never took it out her whole life. Her father spoiled her, instilled in her that everything is bought and sold, and when he was gone, he died 3 years ago. His wife, a slacker, spent all his $1 million fortune on lovers. Now, with no one to help her, she decides to set up her daughter. What they don't know is that Austin's broke and living off me. Why don't you tell them? Louise asked. Why should I? Jasmine comes to our house and talks to me for hours about her great love for my son. Why destroy such love? And Austin? Does he love her? I don't know. Sometimes I don't think he's capable of feeling that way at all. I've decided to stay out of his life. Let them live as they please. Finally, the day finally arrived. Despite Donna's pleas for a low-key wedding celebration, the young couple feasted on the world. Of course, it was not without the financial support of mothers. Donna immediately warned her son that the wedding and the wedding gift will be her last investment in him. And the mother of the bride collected the remnants of the untold wealth of her deceased husband and gave them to her daughter's wedding on the condition that after marriage, she will return everything to her with more than enough. After the festivities, the newlyweds went on a wedding trip, which Donna gave them, and she herself returned to work. The director answered congratulations and questions from her subordinates dryly and reluctantly. One could sense that the woman was worried about her son's future, but she did not change her principles. He is a grown man, not stupid, with a good education, Louise reassured Austin's mother. He'll be fine. You'll laugh when you remember how you shed tears for nothing. How kind you are, Donna said, not hiding her admiration. God give you a good fiancé. He will, laughed the girl, all in good time. My man, I want to talk to you, said Austin on his return from the wedding trip. Let's talk, Donna agreed. Are you in some kind of trouble? No, the man was miffed. I just wanted to learn your business from the inside, so to speak. Well, this is unexpected. You've always been against the mother superior. Everything in this world is changeable, Austin replied philosophically. I changed my mind. Maybe you'll want to hand over your authority to me too, when you're convinced that I'm doing a good job with your enterprise. Austin and his young wife had returned from a wedding trip the day before. Being weary on the road, they went straight to their room, whence they did not come out all the evening. It was not until the next morning, while Jasmine was lying in bed, that Austin came into the parlor and had an unexpected conversation with his mother. Well, I don't mind, Donna said. My business is going to be lambasted by you anyway, so it's better to get into it beforehand. When are you planning on going to work? Oh, we could do it today. I don't think I'll get into the process right away, so first I'll get to know the staff, get used to the office. Mother grinned and looked at her watch and said, Then you have 15 minutes. I don't like my employees to be late. I'll wait for you at the car. While Austin searched for a clean iron shirt, the time for packing was over. He kissed his sleeping wife at the last moment and got into the car with his mother, who had already left. I didn't even have time for breakfast, he complained. Why didn't your wife see you off? The woman asked. Jasmine is still asleep. Doesn't she have to go to work today? My man, what are you doing? Austin grinned. In her family, women don't work. Ours do, Donna retorted. Or does she think I'm going to feed and clothe her for the rest of her life? I will. Austin stood up for his lady. I'll be able to provide for my woman and then for my children. And what will your woman do? Home. A wife's duty is to keep the hearth and bear children. Donna looked at her son in silence and continued to follow the road. Soon they arrived at the factory. Austin walked in step with his mother, trying to establish himself as a strict boss in front of his subordinates from the first minutes. He had been to his parents' kingdom many times as a teenager, but then he had been here as a guest, and now he had come with the purpose of taking the throne. Practically nothing had changed here, Austin noticed, just more employees. Yes, production is expanding. Business is booming, Donna agreed. With the right management, it's a profitable business. We're here. Where? Austin didn't understand. Your office, if memory serves, is on the top floor. I thought I'd be sitting next to you. Sitting, my dear son, is not going to work, she replied. If you're here to work, you'll have to work hard. I'm used to being alone in my office. Here's your workplace. The director pointed to a vacant desk among the other desks where the employees were working. Austin glanced around the large workshop and looked at his mother with a puzzled look. You're not going to put me in the shop, are you? He asked. You wanted to get to know the production from the inside, she reminded him. When you master the technology, I will transfer you to the quality department. Mom, but I'm your son. Austin was indignant. You're my employee here. The director replied, turned around and walked toward the stairs. If something is unclear, ask your colleagues. The man did not argue with his mother, deciding to continue the conversation in the evening at home. It was not until lunchtime that he managed to have breakfast and lunch. Sitting at the table with a bored look, he watched the workers. Suddenly, his gaze stopped on a very elegant young woman. It was clear from her demeanor and mannerisms that she held not a small position in this enterprise. Mesmerized by her beauty and grace, Austin did not immediately recognize the well-groomed, blooming young woman as Louise. He had, of course, heard from his mother that she had invited her former housekeeper to join her at the company, but he had not expected to see such a change in her. There was not a trace of that simpleton left. She walked with a confident stride, responding to the greetings of the employees with a slight nod. Austin, as if mesmerized, did not take his eyes off her. The episodes of their date suddenly appeared in his mind. He remembered how he pursued her, and once he'd gotten her, he lost interest. It seemed to him that he even remembered the taste and smell of the food she cooked. Have you had lunch yet? Came his mother's voice from upstairs. Looking up, Austin saw his mother and nodded to her. She put the tray of food on the table and sat down across from her son. Have you changed your mind about working at my company? She asked. Austin looked at Louise and asked, Who does your housekeeper work here? You mean Louise? The woman clarified. She's my right-hand woman. I don't know how I managed without her. When I'm away, she runs the place. Wow, so some housekeeper is the boss and the director's son is just a laborer. Louise learned the manufacturing process from scratch, and she's a quick study, Donna said. If you try as hard as she did, you'll soon have your own office. Austin wasn't excited about the prospect. He'd assumed he'd be in charge right away, but he'd miscalculated. If it hadn't been for his wife, he would have left his mother that very day. But Jessamine insisted that it was time for him to take the whole business into his own hands, not to depend on his mother. So the man got up and headed into the shop to his workplace. Hello, dear. Met Jessamine, her husband, after the first day of work at the new place. How are you doing? Normal, Austin replied in a tired voice. What are we having for dinner tonight? I thought we were going out to a restaurant to celebrate your first day as boss. Jessamine, what restaurant? What boss? I don't think I've ever been as tired as I am today. What were you doing? The girl asked. Working. So we're not going to the restaurant, she said, stretching her lips. Well, what is it, mistress? Set the table. Donna, who had just entered the house, asked and went to her room. After changing her clothes, she went down to the dining room and seeing the empty table asked, Are we having dinner tonight? Mom, Jessamine suggested we celebrate my new assignment at the restaurant, Austin said. What's there to celebrate? The woman was surprised. When you become a boss, then we'll celebrate. Until then, I see no reason to celebrate. I do not understand, admitted Jessamine. And now you are what, if not the boss? And now your husband is an ordinary employee in the shop, explained his mother. A good boss is the one who rose to this post from below. The mother-in-law's answer dumbfounded her daughter-in-law. At first she stood with her mouth open and silently flapped her eyes, and then she grinned. My husband's a laborer? Yes, Donna confirmed. You can be proud of him. He's a hard worker. What have you been doing all day? I went to my mom's, and then I went to the beauty parlor with her. I just got back, said Jessamine. I'm really tired and hungry. Why don't we go to a restaurant after all? Austin looked at his mother, but she turned and went into the kitchen. Jessamine, he turned to his wife. I spent a lot of money on vacation. The The paycheck isn't due for a while. If we go to the restaurant now, we'll be broke by the end of the month. What are you talking about? She asked with irritation in her voice. I married one of the richest men in town, and now you're telling me that we don't have any money. You know what kind of spending we've been doing for the last month, don't you? My card isn't unlimited. Ask your mother. She won't refuse her only son. I'm not sure that's a good idea, Austin replied. We're adults and we have to support ourselves. She doesn't have to support us. She's got a good job. Jasmine was indignant, referring to her mother-in-law. She earns so much money and lives with her son. When you were single, all right, someone had to look after you. But now that you're married, you might want to think about moving out. Where would she go? Austin asked. It's her house. Why does she need such a big house all by herself? We have a family, we'll have children. An apartment would be enough for her. At that moment, Donna appeared in the living room where the newlyweds were. Let's go to dinner, she called her son and daughter-in-law. Already sitting at the table, she warned Austin's wife. Don't think it's going to be like this every day. There's never been a slacker in this family. If you don't work, you better keep the house in order and cook dinner. I'm not your housekeeper or cook, snapped at Jasmine. I'm not going to ruin my manicure and hands by scrubbing your floors. Donna looked questioningly at her son, then at her daughter-in-law. What did you get married for? Donna asked. It is the husband's duty to provide for his wife. And what is the wife's duty? Austin's mother asked. The mother-in-law's question stumped Jasmine. She shifted her gaze from her husband to her mother-in-law and tried in vain to find the right words. Finally, the girl gathered her thoughts and answered, It is the wife's duty to bear and bring up children. Good, said Donna, and who will feed and wash them? There should be a housekeeper for that, reasoned Jasmine. In case you haven't noticed, we don't have a housekeeper, replied her mother-in-law. I've been doing the housework myself so far. I think I can still make myself a bowl of soup and iron a dress, but I won't take care of my son anymore. He has a wife now. If you hire a housekeeper, I won't mind, but you'll have to pay for it yourself. After dinner, Donna washed the dishes and went to her room, leaving the newlyweds alone. I don't think your mother likes me, Jasmine concluded. She's always trying to embarrass me in front of you. Don't make it up. Austin stood up for his mother. It's just that she wants to keep you busy. I see. I don't think we're going to get along in this house together. We should give her a hint about moving out. Why don't you talk to your mother? Talking to her wouldn't be a problem, Austin said. I just don't want you and me to have to look for an apartment. Long sleep, son, remarked Donna, putting on her jacket and heading for the exit. You're leaving already? Austin clarified. Aren't you going to wait for me? I warned you, I don't like it when employees are late, and I'm never late myself, her mother replied and disappeared out the door. Austin, disgruntled, wandered into the kitchen. The table was empty, and there was nothing in the refrigerator that looked like a cooked breakfast. Deciding to grab a snack on his way to work, he slammed the refrigerator door shut and went to his room. His spouse was sleeping like a baby. Austin looked in the closet and found no iron shirt. Jasmine, he called to his wife quietly. Iron my shirt. The girl only rolled over to the other side. Jasmine, he repeated louder. I have nothing to go to work in. The wife opened her eyes, stretched and replied with a smile. Then don't go. She reached out her arms to her husband and pulled him into bed, wrapping him in her arms. Austin didn't resist much. He liked it when Jasmine was gentle and affectionate with him. After lying in bed with his wife, Austin looked at his watch and realized that he was finally late for work. That's great, he said, getting out of bed, but Mom won't like my absences. I could end up unemployed. Oh, come on. Jasmine grinned, grumbles, and will return. She won't kick out her only son. You don't know my mother well. You're just like a little delinquent child. Laughed Jasmine. Maybe we'd better go out? You've completely stopped taking me to restaurants. I explained everything to you. We have no money now. After these words, the girl became furious. I don't want to hear it. I married a millionaire and he turned out to be a starving man. Either you talk to your mother today and dot all the I's and dot all the I's, or Jasmine paused to think of the second option, or I'll have to do it. Austin didn't show up for work until lunchtime. The principal immediately called him into her office. It was clear from her stern look and stern tone that there was no good news. When she was alone with her son, she said, "You asked to work for me. I kindly agreed, brought you to the enterprise, explained all the procedures, but you decided they didn't concern you. If you change your mind, I won't hold you back. Just write your notice and go." Austin assumed that this was the format of their conversation, so he prepared himself morally. "My man," he said to her in a calm voice, "let's not be too hasty. I'm your only heir, so sooner or later you'll have to hand over the reins to me. Why all this circus with a simple laborer, then a foreman, and so on? Everyone should be in their place. I didn't go to university so I can work as a laborer. If it weren't for these, as you say, simple laborers, you wouldn't be living in a huge house now and eating caviar sandwiches." Speaking of sandwiches, Austin caught on. "I'm late today because I spent a long time making breakfast and ironing my shirt. Why doesn't your wife cook and iron for you? I thought you said the husband was the provider and the wife the keeper." "Jasmine does not feel like a mistress in our house," complained Austin, "and I can understand that. You can't have two mistresses in the same kitchen." "I agree. So think about a separate place to live. That way, maybe your Jasmine will be a better hostess sooner." Austin realized that the conversation was not going the way he wanted it to, so he decided to leave. His mother stopped him on the doorstep. "And think about the job. And for today's absenteeism, I will deduct from your salary." Only when he left the principal's office, Austin gave vent to his feelings. "What a mother. When I was a kid, she was at work 24 hours a day, and now she's taking over my upbringing. It's too late for that. We'll see who'll be the first to come begging for help. You're not getting any younger." He turned to her in his heart. "And you're not taking your business with you. And when you're having a hard time coping, you'll call me yourself. Are you all right?" A familiar voice pulled him out of his thoughts. Austin looked up and saw Louise in front of him. She was walking toward the principal with a stack of file folders. The girl looked at him as if he were a stranger. Not a single muscle on her face trembled. Austin even thought that she might not have recognized him. "Louise? You look good." He perked up. "How are you?" "Thank you," the girl replied calmly. "I'm doing fine. And you? I thought you looked upset." "You seemed upset." "Well, okay." She shrugged her shoulders and continued on her way. "Wait," Austin called out to her. "Why don't we meet tonight? We can sit and talk." "No," Louise said firmly. "I don't date married men. And there's nothing to talk about." Without waiting for the former suitor's answer, the girl went to the principal's office. Austin stood and watched her. Miniature, as if chiseled by the hand of a master, elegantly dressed, in expensive stiletto shoes, she walked down the corridor, swaying her hips. The young man could not take his eyes off her. As if mesmerized, he looked at her and remembered the nights he had spent with her. "Pretty girl," on an exhalation said an unfamiliar male voice behind him. "I can't take my eyes off her." Austin looked at the man in his work uniform with disdain and replied, "Nothing much," and to close the subject added, "And you go where you're going." Married life was getting more and more stressful for Austin. This was not how he had envisioned it. Jasmine was always demanding money, and his mother wouldn't give him a penny on principle. Previously, Austin's salary was enough for fun and partying. All other expenses were completely on his mother. Now he had to support himself and his wife. And as it turned out, his salary was not enough for all that. "Austin, since we moved in, you've stopped spending time with me," my wife complained. "Why don't we go to a club tonight?" "Jasmine, what club? I work from morning till night, and I barely have enough money to make ends meet." "How long are you going to be your mother's apprentice?" asked the disgruntled wife. "You can't make a deal with your own mother." "I already have," Austin replied with irritation in his voice. "You couldn't live in her house on your own, so we moved out. You can forget about clubs and restaurants now." "All set." Jasmine was indignant. "Your mother showed us from the very beginning that we are unnecessary. She was trying to get us to move into a rented apartment. If you'd done anything around the house, none of this would have happened. So it's all my fault? Well, I'm sorry. You should have told me you didn't want a wife, but a housekeeper. I've never held a rag or a frying pan since I was a kid. And you thought that if I married you, I'd become a cook and a cleaner. Wrong, hubby. If you can't earn a decent living for your wife, that's your problem, and you don't need to put it on your head." Letting out her anger, Jasmine immediately made a cute face, stretched her lips, and slammed her long eyelashes. "Well, darling, why don't you ask your mother for money?" "Darling," Austin answered in her tone of voice, "don't you want to help me solve our problems?" "How?" "Like getting a job," he suggested. "Oh, really? Are you kidding?" "What will my friends say?" The girl said she was scared. "They'll laugh at me." "What's so funny about working? Only losers and peasants work." "Do you think my mother and I are losers?" "Was your father, who made $1 million, a loser or a villain?" Her husband's example stumped Jasmine, but she quickly thought of something to answer. "My father is an exception, and you're a loser. Couldn't agree with your mother on the basics. Now you're just a coward to her." "I have a feeling this conversation isn't going to get us anywhere," Austin concluded. "Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to learn how to run a household. I don't have a single fresh shirt left. The refrigerator is empty. There's a thick layer of dust on the furniture and on the floor. I can't go on like this." "Yes, I agree. I don't want to live in filth. I'm sick of eating your scrambled eggs and store-bought dumplings. I'm going to my mom's. When you get rich, call me." Jasmine gathered her things and left, slamming the door loudly. Austin didn't hold her back, figuring that without her, it would be easier for him to go back to his mother's house and maybe get her to make him his deputy. And he had miscalculated. Donna, after listening to her son's sob story about his wife leaving him, decided to give him a second chance. She trusted him to run the business for the duration of her business trip. Donna had been planning to open a branch in another city for years. Now she was on her way to take care of it locally. She left Louise to look after Austin. The girl had studied the details of production during her work, and now she could understand all the nuances as well as the owner of the enterprise. Sometimes Donna would say in her heart of hearts, "I wish you were my daughter. You and I would have broken mountains together." After his mother's departure, Austin returned to her home and the same day did not fail to tell the news to his wife. Jasmine had been living in her parents' house for a few days, but did not know how to move out. Her mother brought another Alfonso Lubovnik with whom she squandered the rest of her husband's fortune. She gradually sold off expensive furniture, her jewelry, and talked about selling the car and the house. To her daughter's unhappy reproaches, she answered the same thing. "You first live with your husband as many years as I lived. Make him earn the same fortune as your father earned, and then dispose of it." When she learned of the change in Austin's life, Jasmine rushed to him the same day. "We must take advantage of the situation," she instructed her husband. "Now that you have access to your mother's money, you can transfer a small amount from the company account to your own account, which will be enough for us at first. And gradually you will gain her trust and take over the reins." "Do you think it's so easy to withdraw money from the company's account?" Austin doubted his wife's words. "I'm sure it won't be that easy for you," she replied. "You're a smart, educated man, and who would notice a small amount of money in such a huge enterprise? Besides, no one will dare say anything to you. You are the son of the owner, and therefore the future director." Austin didn't like his wife's idea, but she had a good point. Of course, he was entitled to his mother's money, and there might never be a better opportunity. After a little thought, the man decided to act. He realized that the old employees who had worked at the company since its founding, he did not help him. But among the newcomers, there was a young man, arrogant for the reward. After a few days, Austin and his wife could afford to hire a housekeeper, make a few new clothes, even pay off the debt to his mother Jasmine. Now they could go to clubs and dine in restaurants. To Luis's questions, Austin answered in a commanding voice, "Don't poke your nose where it doesn't belong. This is my mother's business, which means it's mine." "I think Donna should know about it," the assistant said. "She knows," the young man assured her. "And you're just jealous. You didn't want to meet me, and now you're biting your elbows. But I'm not vindictive. My offer still stands. Why don't we have dinner tonight?" "I don't think your wife would like that," Luis replied. "I don't think she's expecting me for dinner." Every day, Austin became more and more into the role of the boss. He spoke disrespectfully and in a commanding tone to his subordinates, was late for work, or even didn't show up at all. He constantly needed money for his beautiful life, and now he knew where to get it. Austin and Jasmine never denied themselves anything, but the beautiful life of the newlyweds did not last long. Donna soon found out about the shenanigans of her son and daughter-in-law. The business trip had to be interrupted early and returned to the city. Man, Austin was surprised to see his mother on the doorstep. "What are you doing here?" "Living," she answered dryly. "But you must be on a business trip." The young man still couldn't believe his eyes. "I should be," Donna confirmed, picking up her suitcase. "And you're supposed to be at work, shouldn't you?" Austin glanced at his watch and remained silent. Just then, Jasmine's voice came from upstairs. "Austin, well, how long do you have to wait? I'm going to die of thirst." "Jasmine, my mom is here," Austin told his wife. 2 minutes later, his sister-in-law was already coming down the stairs to the living room. "Donna, you're back already?" she asked in an oily voice. "We weren't expecting you so early." "You mean you haven't had time to spend all my money?" she said sternly. "I don't know what you're talking about," Jasmine retorted. "Austin is at work day and night. I hardly see him." "From today, Austin will be at your complete disposal," the woman replied and turned to her son. "You no longer work at the company." While Austin and Jasmine, dumbfounded by the arrival of their landlady, stood looking at each other, Donna dragged her suitcase to the second floor and disappeared into her room. But a moment later, she came out of her room and said, "And have the house cleared out by tonight." "Mother, this is my house too. Don't forget, I'm your own son." Austin resented her. "You can't kick me out every time. The deed is mine, but you're not my son anymore. I will not tolerate traitors in my house. I've worked my whole life to make sure you had nothing. I gave you a great education. And how did you take advantage of all that? Steal from me? And then you have the nerve to tell me you're my son. Take your slacker wife and get out of my house. And if you dare disobey me, I'll file a police report on you." After the scandal, Donna locked herself in her room. Trying to distract herself from her heavy thoughts, she unpacked her suitcase, took a hot bath, and went to the company. The employees greeted her happily. "Donna, I apologize for having to distract you from important negotiations," Louisa said upon meeting her. "But don't apologize," the director interrupted her. "You did the right thing. A little more and my negotiations would have become irrelevant." At that time, the chief accountant came into the director's office. "Come in, Emerald." Donna invited her in. "And you stay," she said to Louise. The girl remained standing where she was. The chief accountant went to the director's desk and put down a folder of papers. "Here is the expense report for the entire period of your absence." Donna looked through the papers carefully and only after studying them to the end asked, "Who helped him?" "Darren," Emerald replied. "When I went on sick leave as you instructed, he stayed on for me." Austin promised him a generous reward. "Of course, all the operations were not done without my knowledge and strictly out of the money you left behind." "I see," Donna said without hiding her disappointment. It was a pity that Austin had chosen to use the opportunity to prove himself as a leader. "But I'd rather find out now that he's not capable of replacing me than have him ruin my business later." "Donna, did you arrange this trip on purpose?" Louise asked. "Did you know about it before I called?" "It was a real and very successful business trip," the director replied. "But I didn't immediately decide to entrust my son with the management of the company. I realized that he was inexperienced in this business, and I wanted to see how he would deal with the issues that arose, who he would consult, and whether he would do anything at all. On Emerald's advice, I set aside a small amount of money for contingencies. Of course, Austin didn't know anything. It was a test," Donna sighed and added with bitterness in her voice, "and he didn't pass it." For several days, the principal looked depressed and preoccupied. She was silent most of the time. When she was alone with her thoughts, she sighed often. Louise tried to stay close to her. She genuinely felt sorry for Donna. It had been a long time since they had met, and she had become a close person to the sisters. Now that the woman was alone, they supported her, for which Donna was grateful to the girls. 10 years had passed. The relationship between mother and son could hardly be called kinship. Austin lived in a rented apartment and worked in a small office in his specialty. With his wife he had long since divorced, Jasmine found a better candidate. They never had children. Louise had been married for several years and was raising a daughter. Martha graduated from high school and went to college. Donna supported the girls in everything. Over the years they had, indeed, become family. One day the director called Louisa into her office and said, "I've decided to pass my brainchild on to you." You are the only one who will be able to carry on my work with dignity. And you? Are you going somewhere? No, I'll be around. And if you need me, I'll help you. But I'm getting restless. What about Austin? She asked uncertainly. He's your son. Austin is my son by blood, nothing more. You and Martha are my daughters in spirit, and you are more dear to me. I know I can rely on you. Unfortunately for me, I never got to be a mom to Austin. Don, everyone makes mistakes. Louise tried to stick up for him. I'm sure he's regretted it many times over. If he had, he'd come and apologize. But he still thinks he's wronged, and I have no desire to prove anything to him. Soon, Louise became director of the company. A year later, Donna died. It turned out she'd been ill for a long time, but she'd never told anyone. Austin, after the funeral, moved into his mother's house, but his joy was short-lived. Donna bequeathed the house to Louise and bought her son a spacious apartment. In addition, she opened a bank account in Austin's name, from which he could withdraw a certain amount each month. What a mother! The man cursed heartily when he heard about his parents' will. Leave everything to some housekeeper, and the son has to live in poverty. The housekeeper has done more for her than her own son. He heard a girl's voice from behind him. Martha looked at Austin with contempt and left the notary's office.